insane is that animal?
This is out of this world. Fantastic. Good, Mama.
Wow, what a way to start off.
It's just such an incredible privilege to be out here. It just keeps on delivering.
There you go, there you go. Heart is pumping right now.
3, 2, 1. You are live, you are live.
Look at this, everybody. We've got a live kill.
The cock's holding the tail. It's holding tight. Lucky Wildebeest.
There's nowhere to go. This is a disaster in the making.
Something that I have never seen before in my entire life that you are now watching live.
My heart is in my mouth, everybody.
Look at this. It's gonna make it. It's going, it's going.
This is just too magical. Hi, little guys. That's great, isn't it? Look at that. Scuba Steve has got a friend.
You've got a friend in me.
It couldn't be a better morning. This is just too special.
Oh my goodness, we've got a turtle.
How epic is the fact that we're coming to you live from the Chobe River?
It's the most incredible feeling to be here. This is live, and we're in Rwanda. This is a very, very different adventure, charged with emotion.
I did not think I would ever face my fears like this.
We are starting the morning, like I said, just listening to the birds starting to sing and waking up for the morning. The sun is already nice and high. We are so far in the east that the sun rises just before 5 o'clock in the morning, a bit earlier than the rest of South Africa. Just sitting and listening to the birds. And maybe listening if we can hear any sounds that might tell us where to go look for some animals this morning. Looking over to the east, we can just see quite a few clouds that's left of some of the rain that we had the last couple of days. Over the ocean there, the Indian Ocean, nice and warm, producing nice and tropical weather around this area during this time of the year. There is quite a few sand dunes that you can see far in the distance there. Those are actually coastal forests on top of those sand dunes there, and on the other side is the ocean. So we're not far away from the Indian Ocean there, and
mobile from Mountain located.
We are gonna see if we can find some animals. Can't hear any animals alarm calling, anything like that. So welcome to andBeyond Phinda. My name is Dewald, and behind the camera we've got Len. And I think what we'll do today is see if we can maybe go look for that cheetah that we saw yesterday with the 3 very, very small cubs. And we know that she was on an Impala, small Impala yesterday. So we'll probably head in that direction. You can hear a few other rangers getting mobile from Mountain Lodge behind us, and we're going to go see if we can go and join them in the search. But for now, I'm going to send you over to some hyenas.
Welcome to Tswalu, folks. Look what we've got. He's literally just popped up now at the lodge as our introduction. All the guests that have gone on safari have just seen him, and he's 20 meters from the vehicle. He's hiding behind a little lavender feverberry, but if we're just patient, I'm going to be very quiet. You might get a look at his face. Look at him peeping over the bushes there. How amazing is this? A brown hyena. This is the one that we were hoping would come to that ostrich carcass last night. Yeah, I just happened to glance over my shoulder. We were sitting with a nice big giraffe bull, which we'll show you shortly, but I was just glanced over my shoulder and I saw him sneaking through the background. So we've been with him for literally 5 minutes, and hopefully he stays with us. He's most likely on his way to drink water at the watering hole. So we're just going to stick with him and see what happens. You can see we literally are at the lodge. And yes, so excited I forgot to introduce myself. So I'm Deirdre at Tswalu, and on camera is Owen. Give us a nice thumbs up. That's a really good thumbs up for the morning. He's still sitting just behind that little bush. He's very nervous. We're just waiting. I don't want to move. There he goes. He's walking. He's moving. So, brown hyena typically will live up in these mountains. They'll have nice little cave areas. So we've kind of caught him on his way back home. So he might be wanting to go drink. He might actually be on his way home up to go and sleep up in a nice cave in the mountains. And generally the ones that are relatively close to the lodges are actually used to the noises of the vehicles and the people. So they are a little bit more relaxed. He's walking up there. I'm just going to start the vehicle and go forward. But he's moving through a blackthorn thicket, so it's a little bit difficult to just get glimpses of him every now and again. But hopefully we'll get a nice gap coming up here for you. There, he's actually starting to walk towards the base of the mountain. But there, he's coming through the gap at the back. Looks like we might actually be losing view. Yeah, he's walking just on the base of the mountain. We'll just stick with him and see if we get another gap to have a nice view. But how was that for a little peeping over the bushes this morning at us? Here he comes out. No, keep going. So this is just the trick with we're just getting glimpses. He's actually stopped for a second, so we might be able to get his nice his face over there. Okay. Oh, he stops and he looks at us, and then as we stop, he decides I'm moving again. So we'll stay with him, see if we can get any more nice views. Please don't hesitate to ask questions on hashtag WildEarth, and we can see how we answer them for you there. He's coming out in the open. Let me just... So animals decide they don't... follow the rules. You know, he's literally at the back of the lodge. So I haven't got him visual at the moment, but he is moving parallel to us, so we just try and see if we can get another view of him. Oh, here he is. He's right here. He's right here. No, don't go away. Can you see him? He's peeping at us through the little blackthorn there. I can move forward a little bit, Owen, you just tell me. Okay. We're playing a little bit of a hide-and-seek game here. There he goes. Now he's going back the other way. Oh, no. He's going out into that little... Okay. You can see him nicely. Yeah, so he's not... He obviously has a mission in mind, and every now and again, if you go just a little bit too far forward, you almost cut him off from his mission. So we're just going to let him settle again. He's got a nice little open stretch there. He's actually turning back. That's what I think he wants to do. Is actually to take a gap in this little stone wall to get to the water at the lodge. So we don't... we're going to have to... I'm going to try and keep up with him in reverse now. Let's see how we go. What an amazing start for the morning. We waited so long at that ostrich yesterday to hope for a brown hyena to come, and our wishes were true, but they were just a few hours later. You never know. He's not that far from the ostrich. They walk so far at night that he could have even had a little bit of an ostrich snack last night. So often with the scavengers, when there's hyenas, there's vultures. I'm going to send you across to Nick for his start. Did you see where he went? Okay, cool. Well, that's good.
Good morning and welcome to andBeyond Ngala, everyone. Coming from one scavenger to another, you can see in this tree in front of us we've got quite a large number of vultures, and if you have a look there, pretty much all those ones sitting at the bottom, you can see they've got quite a big head, quite big bodies, and those are all white-backed vultures. And you can see how they're all perched nicely in the tree, and a large aggregation of them this morning. So we did come to investigate. There was a pride of lions in this area yesterday, and they did end up killing a buffalo. And welcome everyone. Hi, my name is Nick, and behind camera we've got BK this morning, and it's a nice cool morning this morning after a long hot day yesterday, a little bit of cloud cover and a cool breeze blowing, and we thought it might just be worthwhile to come and investigate this area. And if you have a look here to my right, you'll see the remains of a large buffalo bull carcass that yesterday was killed by a pride of lions. And these vultures would have all come into the area during yesterday and the course of yesterday. And because the lions were on the carcass most of yesterday, they didn't get an opportunity to feed. Now this morning when we came to investigate, there were lots of hyena tracks. I haven't seen the tracks of the lions yet and where they've headed off to. Lots and lots of hyena tracks, but the main attraction this morning is definitely the vultures. And BK, if you look to the one on the right, a little bit up and to the right. Yeah, further right and up, and there in the corner there's another species of vulture that was not in the group at the bottom, and its head is tucked away at the moment, but when it does pop out you'll see it's got a very thin bill, and that's another species called the hooded vulture, which could have even potentially been the first bird that was here yesterday afternoon. Now this carcass, you saw the image of it a little bit earlier, and most of it has been stripped quite clean by the lions and hyenas over the course of the night, but the vultures this morning will be moving in to clean off all the rest of the meat that's on that carcass. It's quite amazing to think that a buffalo bull weighing close to 800 kilograms, killed and fed on by lions, almost nothing left. And the reason I know it's a buffalo bull this morning is if you have a look at those horns, you can see that really strong helmet on the top, or boss as we call it. Really nice set of horns, and quite unfortunate that the lions managed to kill this buffalo, because we haven't been seeing very many at all around Ngala, but really good meal for them. And while we sit here, also the sun is starting to get a little bit higher in the sky. The hyenas have definitely moved off, but the vulture's turn will come in shortly. I think what we might do is we'll spend some time here and see if they don't fly down. They were on the carcass this morning when we arrived, and as we drove in, they flew off. They got a bit of a fright with us coming in, but I'm sure if we wait around and give them some time, they might come down. I haven't seen any other species of vultures around, and at Ngala we do have quite a large population of white-backed vultures and hooded vultures around, so quite nice to see them all here this morning, still perched in the trees. And hugely important role that they play in the bushveld here, cleaning up carcasses, finishing up all the remains, picking the bones clean, and yeah, that's pretty much it. I think what we'll do is stick around here a little bit more, maybe wait, see if some hyenas don't come in. There were tracks of them all over the show, and there was one that ran out this morning, sort of crossed the road in a southerly direction away from us. And yeah, the plan originally this morning to come into this area was because there was a leopard, or two young leopards that were actually seen in the riverbed, in the Timbavati riverbed behind us. And didn't expect there to be this many vultures around, considering the fact that it was really cool yesterday. Really hot yesterday. So they must have come in sort of late evening, afternoon. In the morning when we came past here, there weren't many vultures at all. But they just waited for their turn, and now their turn has come where they can head down onto the carcass and start feeding and finish off the remains. I don't think that they're going to hang around here for too much longer this morning as well, because, when we saw that carcass, pretty much all the meat has been picked off, and very, very few or little strands of meat left on that carcass. And then once they're finished here, they might be inclined to head to find some water. There's a couple pans around this area, not too many big watering holes. So Sarah has just asked a question, asking if vultures eat bones. And it's quite an interesting question because we do know that they spend a lot of time around these carcasses, especially of the larger animals and then of the smaller animals as well. But unfortunately, the vultures that we get in South Africa, none of them actually feed on big bones. You can imagine putting a big bone in their mouth, incredibly difficult to digest. However, some of the smaller bones, maybe some of the bones that have been broken off by hyenas, really small pieces, you can imagine with their bills, they can't really break pieces of bone off. So they need to rely on the hyenas to break them down a little bit more. And then they might ingest or feed on really small pieces of bones. They've got incredibly strong acids in their stomach that help digest the bones that goes in and all the meat as well, or sometimes rotten meat or carrion. Super interesting question though, Sarah. And yeah, it's quite a quiet morning around us. There are a few birds calling, slight breeze blowing. Quite interested to see if we can find the tracks of this pride of lions and where they've headed to. This part of the reserve is incredibly difficult to track just because there's very few roads around. So if they do move into one of the wilderness blocks or areas, yeah, it's quite a difficult task to try and find them. See at those vultures as well, there's a couple other birds flying in at the top, sort of in the middle there, Beaker. I don't know if you can get it on that tree on the left. Looks like a couple Cape starlings that have come in. Same tree that the vultures were in. Yeah, just near the one on the top left. Yeah, there in the middle. Yeah, so that is, I mean, it's very difficult to see from here, but that is a Cape starling or Cape glossy starling. And the general image of that bird. The yellow eye, but through the camera this morning we're struggling with a bit of light. So we are going to spend a bit more time here, but for now we're going to send you over to Deirdre at Tswalu with a giraffe.
Welcome back to Tswalu. That was quite a start for us. I even laughed at Owen and we almost forgot to introduce ourselves. But this is the giraffe we originally had before we saw the brown hyena sneak past in the background. And this is quite a nice big bull. He's got quite unevenly matched horns, so he's actually relatively easy to recognize. But he was also having a nice look at the brown hyena as it was walking. So it went through the thicket and down to the waterhole as predicted, but we did lose visual of it. So that was an amazing start this morning. It's a little bit of a chilly sort of 14 degrees this morning. It started definitely with all of us with our jackets on. So, but promises to be an absolutely stunning day. My plan for this morning is to head out to that ostrich and just give everyone some feedback and see what happened overnight. This giraffe's just busy eating on a nice, I want to say a blackthorn, but let me check quickly with the binoculars before. Oh, no, there's a blackthorn in amongst there, but there's also a raisin bush. There we go. Nice, so you can actually see the nice little bumps on his head that he would use for fighting, those sort of nice solid calcium deposits. And the viewers telling me the other day that the black tongue is to prevent sunburn. Very, very interesting. I never really thought that you'd have internal adaptations to prevent sunscreen, but I think it makes sense with the amount of time that the giraffe's tongue comes out of his mouth in the heat of the day. In the Kalahari, it's quite interesting because you can see around you, unless there's very, very large camel thorns, the giraffe doesn't even have an area that they can stand in the shade under the trees. So on a really, really hot day here, what we find often is that the giraffe actually lie down during the day in the heat underneath the shade of the camel thorn trees, just resting for the day. Oh, get that little morsel. Yeah. And another one, sometimes they're eating the flowers as well of a lot of the trees, either the seed pods, the flowers. So those raisin bushes, not that one in particular, doesn't have too many flowers on it at the moment, but there are a couple that do. And that raisin bush, you can see there's a couple of sort of straight stems. We were talking about the bushmen making their bows with those. Okay, Barbara, yes, beautiful start to the morning. I didn't expect to get a brown hyena. I was just as excited, and I couldn't actually believe it. Oh, there is a set of guests that's just coming past, which has got the giraffe's attention. But as I was saying about the raisin bush, that those long stems are generally used for the bow, for the bushmen's bow and arrow set. Beautiful. Nice against that silhouette. Silhouette against that sort of sunrise. The sun hasn't come up and over the mountain yet. You can just see it creeping in the distance. It's getting closer to us, but we're heading into it shortly because we're going to head out west to follow up on that. Oh, he looks a bit stiff-legged. Maybe he's a bit older than we thought. Or he's just woken up. I've had that. The legs are stiff, they don't want to work. Now he's moved on to feeding on a blackthorn. Really, really beautiful. So we don't typically have too many oxpeckers. It's just sort of out of their distribution range. But also we don't have very high tick loads in the Kalahari. So that's often why we're not showing you any oxpeckers on any of the animals, whether it's zebra or giraffe or buffalo. It's just because they're very limited distribution. We've seen them infrequently on odd occasions. Beautiful. So we're going to send you to somebody else that's got something with some spots, Deerwald, in...
Everyone, we have found the cheetah with the 3 small cubs, and looks like she is going to lie down in the shade right there. Okay, let's see if the youngsters come and join her. Look at that. So cute. Interesting, Glenn and I was just chatting now. She was lying not far away from where they caught the baby Impala yesterday, and now she's just moved off a little bit into some nice thick shade there, as the sun rising now is already nice and hot. But look at these youngsters. Oh my goodness, you can't imagine that something that small and dark with that white fur on its back will grow into a big cheetah. There she's just sitting upright and looking around a bit. Mom is very aware of what's going on around her. Can just imagine this female cheetah does not get much rest. Apart from trying to give food to these youngsters all the time, she's trying to stay away as possible. Probably doesn't get too much rest during the evenings either. There's one of the youngsters coming around, going to his sibling. Seem like they're starting to settle down now. There's one just sitting there next to Mom as well. Leslie, you're saying they look so fuzzy. That is so true. They are actually very fuzzy and fluffy. So if you can see that long white fur that's on their back there, that is the cheetah's way of camouflage, especially with these youngsters. Think of the first few months of their lives. They are completely helpless, and the long grass, this mom would go and hide them away in a thicket or in some long grass, and that white fur with the dark underbody acts as some camouflage, makes them blend in with the vegetation, makes it a little bit more difficult for other animals to spot them. And now, since they've started moving around, they're still quite young, but maybe in the next month or two, we'll start to see the change in coloration. And they'll slowly lose that long white fur on their backs until it's gone completely. Look at the youngster coming to mom. Oh my goodness, how cute is that? Climbing onto mom's head. We are a little bit of a distance away from them, but with these youngsters, we don't even go off the road yet, like I said yesterday, just so we can get them used to the vehicles moving around in the distance, and then we'll slowly but surely approach them, and until they show no behavioral changes to the vehicles at all, and in that way we can still view them in their natural behavior without affecting their movements or anything with the vehicles. It's all about the sensitivity and viewing the animals in their natural behavior. Candice, you're asking how old I think these youngsters are. Looking at the size of them, generally cheetah will take their cubs to their first kill around 3 months old, somewhere around there. And leave the den side around that time. But if I look at the coloration of these youngsters and how dark they still are with that white fur on their backs, I would say they're still under 3 months, maybe about 2.5 months or so. We only saw them for the first time about 2-3 weeks ago, and since then, every single ranger has at least once or twice gone and looked for them. But they've been super difficult to find, seeing as we don't off-road and we don't track them on foot or anything like that just yet. And they were in a very, very dense area, and we've been very lucky for them to move out into the clearings in this part of the reserve. Oh, they are so precious. A youngster going to the thicket on that side, exploring a little bit. Other two looking at their sibling there in the bush, probably wondering if they want to go and join her or him. Oh, Mom's just sitting up a little bit. Oh, there, the youngsters are coming towards Mom. Look at that. Ferocious beast taking down Mom there. Are there other youngsters coming out of the bush now? Might come and join the rest. See, I think these youngsters are nice and playful. Ronnie, they are a little bit, they are definitely the fastest land mammal in the world. reaching speeds up to 110 to 120 kilometers an hour. But there is a few other animals that are a little bit more fast or faster than them. For example, like the peregrine falcon that can dive at speeds over 300 kilometers an hour, and maybe some of the fish that can swim faster than what they can run. But they are definitely the fastest land mammal. See, all the youngsters have moved into the thicket there now. They're actually going right into the thicket, and there you can just see that camouflage. Oh my goodness. So that dark coloration, you would think it would stick out a little bit, but look at the thicket there, and I don't know if you can even see them moving around in there. They just blend into that thicket so well, and the white on their backs almost resembles the light that you can see on the other side of the thicket there. If the female cheetah wasn't lying there out there in the open and these cubs were right in the thicket, I don't think you would even have spotted them. Would just drive right past. Yo, how nature's camouflage is just the best. I think Mom is pretty happy with this clearing that she's got here. And the fact that they are still around here means that there was probably very little other predators around, or any predators moving around or anything like that, or scents that she could pick up. It looked like some of the youngsters one or two of the youngsters there in the thicket was actually standing up against the tree there. Yeah, they're so inquisitive, just exploring everything in the thicket there. Interesting how the youngsters are hanging around close to the thickets. I wonder if it is also maybe a bit of a behavioral thing with them being so small. Maybe trying to stay closer to the thicket. But looking at all their movement, there's just the one lying down and the other two are still exploring. So I think they are full of energy after filling themselves up with that Impala and sleeping through the night. This Mom might have her hands full this morning. Some Hadida is calling there in the background. Hadida ibis is catching these youngsters' attention as well. I can already see even the behavioral changes of these youngsters from when we saw them yesterday. When they were walking past our vehicle yesterday, they were maybe trotting away or so, but this morning we had them earlier walking right past us with the staff transport vehicle coming past or anything like that, and they were already way better with the vehicles being around. Incredible how quickly the animals can get used to us being around. There, the one youngster is just coming out and lying in the shade there behind Mom as well. Got the nice warm sun coming out. First day that we were having the sun out in the last 4 days or so. I'm sure they are also enjoying a bit of heat, and you can imagine these youngsters, that fluffy hair that they've got, keeps them nice and warm with all the rainy weather that we've been having. But for now, I think we'll see if we can reposition a little bit, get another view from the other side of these cheetahs. Like I said, I think they are going to be settling down here for the day, and we'll see if we can maybe go look for some other animals a little bit later on.
What a beautiful morning in Tswalu Kalahari. Just take a moment to listen to this dawn chorus. There's a wildebeest snorting, lots of birds calling. Isn't that just spectacular?
We've just repositioned a little bit, and look at that. Now we've got a perfect little view there of the whole family. See the one youngster lying right in front of Mum. Oh, it looks like the one there in the back still wants to explore a little bit. Michael, you asking how long she would leave them to go hunt. So, Michael, it differs, and I guess it's also different to how hungry she is and how desperate she is for food. But she'll leave them in a thicket like this or in a nice dense area, and she might even be away for a couple of hours at a time if she can't find anything. But yesterday, for example, I talked to the ranger that witnessed her catching the young impala. She literally just saw the impalas with the youngsters, and she bolted off, caught the impala, and the youngsters were still in view of her and the impalas, and then she just dragged it down into the open clearing where they started feeding. So it really depends on the situation, and every time is a little bit different. Look at the youngsters playing there. See, they're lying right behind Mum. I wonder if she moves the tail every now and then. They might become a little bit inquisitive and try and catch it also. Oh, all three of them lying on the other side of Mum there now. that long white fur on their backs. You can see it very, very nicely now. You can barely see the spots on these young cheetahs, but they'll get more and more visible the lighter the hair on there, the bottom of their bodies become. You can just see faint spots on that one's back that's sticking out there behind mom. These youngsters are very inquisitive of everything that's going on around them. I think this is probably the first time that they have come into this area with the short grass and all the birds and everything flying around them. Everything's catching their attention. There you can see mom just looking in our direction as well. See, mom's just listening around, and the way that she's lying at the moment, she can look all around her without really doing much movement. She can just look around with her head. A very iconic cheetah pose that she's got there while she's lying down. Look at the youngsters up there. Nothing quite beats a cheetah cub and how cute they are. A little white tip on the tail that they've got. That one's going deeper into the thicket there for a little bit of more shade. I think mom's lying right on the edge of the shade there, and the shade is getting smaller and smaller of that tree that they're lying in. So I think they are all going to move pretty soon and maybe go to the bush in the back there. Good, stand by. The youngsters are already falling asleep, and they're almost completely in the sun there. But I think these youngsters are probably going to see if they can follow the other one pretty soon and also go and lie in the deeper shade there. So there's lots of short green grass that's nice and lush here. And I wonder if the herds of impalas are staying away from here for now because of her being around here last night and maybe her scent being carried by the wind a little bit. But let's see, if the wind keeps on carrying the wind, a scent into a certain direction, we might see some of the herds of impalas return. And I wonder if she's happy in this open area because she can see around her for other predators and threats, but also maybe she's waiting to see if some other prey animals will come back into this area. But thinking of how far she's moved with these youngsters just yesterday, I think she's probably going to try and not move that far today. I can imagine it must be quite difficult for these youngsters to move long distances like this. But for now, I think we are going to just stick around this area, see if these youngsters get a move on or not, but also give some chance for some other game drive vehicles with guests to come and see if they can get a view of these cheetahs. But we're going to send you to DJ and see if he can find his ostrich carcass.
We literally just on our way to follow up on that ostrich. We're quite close to the base of the dune. We're just looking for the ostrich carcass. Because sometimes what you'll find is that the brown hyena's decided to take the entire snack for himself, going, I see down on the ground there. So we always, Steenbok always, yeah, Owen. So we'll just stop and turn off for a second. So Steenbok always, whenever you want to put them on live TV, they tend to run away. At least this one's lying down. Oh, there it runs away. I spoke too soon. I'll go forward. We might catch it in the frame, which was an unusual thing. Well, we probably landed with an update on the meerkats too, because they went right down in their little burrow just before night. So Steenbok ran away a short distance. Tell me when you can start. We should get him through that gap. Okay, there we go. Perfect. So that little Steenbok, it ran a short little distance and then laid down, which is typical of them to do. They don't expend too much energy. They like living in areas with these little thickets so that they can run short distances and then lie down, and there she just dashed off again. She is gone. So we're not, I'm just going to scan around with the binoculars to see if we can see. We're not too far off the carcass. We're probably about another, it's that clump of terminalias down there. So we still have a little ways to go to get there in order to see what's left of it. I would imagine there'll be quite a lot of feathers. I don't see anything across the tops of the dunes just yet. So, John's asking the question, have we had much rain? So we're very fortunate in we sort of in an area that they call the Green Kalahari, so not true desert, which can get less than sort of 150 mils of rain. We get closer to 250 mils or just a bit more than that. We've been very fortunate in that our rain has come early this year. We've had sort of at least 3 good cloud bursts of more than 50 mils at a time. So some of the areas, I mean, Tswalu is very large, so we've got probably multiple rain gauges. We've probably got about 15 or 20 rain gauges, and all of the different areas in Tswalu receive different rain. But we've had about half the amount of the year's rainfall. So we just keep hoping that you get the green grass flush, then you'll get sort of a heat wave every now and again, which obviously knocks the grass back a little bit, and then you just hope for replacement rains so that the grass can grow a little bit more. So ideally for the Kalahari is just regular cloud bursts over the rainy season, and it will rain here right up until about February, March, and then we start going into a little bit less, and then into winter. I want to try and see if I can carry on moving. You can just give us feedback, obviously, if we're losing signal, but I want to try and get to that carcass. So I want to send you across to WildEarth while we make the distance between here and the ostrich carcass to give you feedback, and hopefully we'll be back shortly with an update.
So we were just talking about the impalas that were hanging around this open clearing previously, and we just came across this small herd just around the corner. There's actually a couple of females here and what looks like a small bachelor herd of young males as well. And I think the cheetah being around has pushed them all together. See how they're all listening to my voice here? A lot of grooming. And with these young males, there's a bit of sparring that's happening every now and then as well. Look at that. All of a sudden, everyone just runs out of the way. There's 2 young males there in the back, sizing each other up. So all these young males building their strength and sparring with each other like this, getting ready and trying to get as strong as possible before the rutting season starts in a couple of months' time. Interesting that we haven't seen a single lamb with these females. Look at all of them grooming themselves with this nice warm sun coming out, and like I said, it's the first sunny day we've had for a couple of days, so I think they're all enjoying the sun and trying to clean themselves, scratching away, getting some of the dirt and maybe the moisture off of them still. But I think all these females, looking at this, the size of them all, there's one or two that look like they could be old enough to have lambs, but there's a few that similar age to the young males that's on the left hand side here, that have the straight horns, and they are exactly a year old now, so they were lambs from the previous season. So the females that are as old as those two young males, they are still too young to have lambs, and they would not have been able to mate during the rutting season this year. So the next rutting season, they will be able to mate with the males, and then we'll see some little lambs come from them as well. This young female in front is actually feeding on some grass, and can see the young male also pushing his head into the thicket there. Jaden, you're saying they've got beautiful horns. They do indeed, and we can tell that these are young males just by looking how short the horns are, and they haven't gotten the big curves into them yet. Maybe later this morning, if we do get a view of a big ram, then we'll maybe see if we can get him as well. You can see the one just behind this youngster that's feeding on the short grass next to the bush. He's starting to get some curves, so he's about 2 years old or so. Or a little bit older than that, maybe about 2.5 years or so. And you can see he's starting to get those curves into his horns. And from there it just curves out even more and more. So all of the grooming that we had earlier, Impalas always look very shiny, and their fur is often in immaculate conditions, and you only really see their fur being in bad condition when they become much older and they lose condition in that way. Otherwise, look at all of them, very shiny, can't see many blemishes on them or ticks sitting everywhere or anything like that. Look at these impalas listening to the left hand side there. I wonder, with the wind swirling a little bit this morning, if they can maybe hear and smell something coming there from the left hand side. They're definitely looking and listening in that direction, and that is the direction of where the cheetah with the youngsters are. I wonder if they can maybe just pick up the little bit of a smell of them. See, this female's just listening in one direction, not moving her head around, trying to figure out what's up ahead. There with these two females now listening with intent like that, you can see the size difference between the one on the right and the left. Josh, you're asking what's the survival rate of impalas. I'm guessing you mean with young impalas, because in the end, none of them really survive. I mean, they'll maybe live till they're a little bit older, and then predator will catch them. But with baby impalas, there's quite a lot of them that get caught by predators, as especially right after they've been born. You can imagine a cheetah running into a herd with a lot of youngsters. They all just scatter, and they don't really know the dangers of of predators just yet, and they learn it over time. But on Phinda itself, impalas get predated on by mainly leopard and cheetah. And to give you an idea, we had a female leopard about 3 weeks ago that caught a female impala, a fully grown female impala, and in the chaos that ensued, all the impala lambs that were in that herd just scattered all over. And she actually caught 3, or if I can remember correctly, it was 3 or 4 impala lambs, and all of them were scattered all over this one tree and inside a bush. So she was on all those carcasses for a few days. Very opportunistic. Yeah, the wind is definitely blowing from where those cheetahs are. And look how this older female that's standing out in the open, is still really listening and looking in that direction. Incredible how quiet these impalas are, feeding away, not making many sounds. And in a way, I think it's to not attract attention to themselves, but also so that they can listen on what's going on around them. She's almost like a statue, not moving a single muscle, trying to figure out where and if there is some danger close by. There's some other individuals now moving back closer towards her. And these all look like, the ones on the left hand side look like young females, like I said, that's about a year old. And there's a young male there as well. I've just been keeping an eye on some of them, and interesting how they are feeding on the nice lush green grass that's growing around all the little thickets and the little bushes, but every now and then they feed on a bit of leaves as well. So these impalas, these females that are here, they're enjoying both grazing and browsing, so have quite a varied diet, not like other herbivores that feed exclusively on grass or leaves. And I guess that's one of the reasons why impalas can be so successful all year long, especially on Phinda. The bushes stay quite green and the leaves stay quite green throughout the whole year. The grass dies down in the winter. They can keep their energy flowing and have very good browsing and grazing throughout the whole year. See how they just feed, and then every now and then there's a head being picked up to look and listen around them. So it's not just feeding all the time. Beautiful with this morning light. I can already feel it's heating up very, very quickly. If I look at my watch here, we are sitting in the sun, so it's probably not too accurate. Need to measure it in the shade, but it's already well over 30 degrees Celsius, I think. Just the cool morning wind that's keeping us a little bit cool. And these impalas are feeding away, trying to consume as much as they can before it gets too hot. During the middle of the day, if it's a really, really hot day, they'll try and also stand in a bit of shade and conserve energy like that. But for now, I think we are going to leave these impalas and let them feed and see if we can go and look for some other animals and see if we can get a view of some of the animals that's also using this warm weather to be out and about.
WildEarth is launching our brand new Explorer program with an opportunity to win a very special WildEarth expedition. The lucky winner will get a behind-the-scenes WildEarth experience at the magnificent and beyond Ngala Tainted Safari Camp. The prize includes a 3-night stay for you and a friend with a chance to sleep out in the unique Ngala treehouse. Become a WildEarth explorer and stand a chance to win this and many other prizes. Terms and conditions apply.
Join us around the fire as we have our very first WildEarth Explorers Fireside Chat.
And what that means is that if you are an explorer, we're inviting you to come and join us so we can chat about the greatest highlights of 2020.
We will be chatting about our favorite characters and what they have been up to during the course of this year.
And if you would like to join us, head over to our Explorers page and subscribe. Don't miss out. This fireside chat will be on the 13th of December at 7:30 p.m. Central African Time, straight after Sunset Safari.
Welcome to my car. This is Wendy, and she's my favorite. She would love to have your name engraved on her so you can be with her every single time she goes on a safari here in Djuma. If you become a WildEarth Explorer, you will have the opportunity to buy an engraved tag which we will attach to her. We will make sure to send you a digital picture to show you exactly where you are sitting on her. You will have front row seat in every single sighting.
Hello, boy. You are a monster. And he's coming right up to us. Hello, boy. Oh, settle down. Settle down. He is very, very close. He's pushing his trunk against the car. You can feel the car moving. Hey, 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 hey. Stop that.
Expect the unexpected here on WildEarth daily.
Welcome back to Tswalu. A little bit of a grim update for the ostrich. So just as we got here, a brown hyena had moved off over the dune. We just got the silhouette and he was gone. He's walked away from what's literally just a couple of bones. You can see there a rib cage. They've eaten between the jackal and that one hyena, the brown hyena, they've eaten. That ostrich is finished. All that is remaining is just the carnage of feathers. And most of the bones and everything have been crunched. All the meat has been cleaned off, and that is all that's left. So I walked all the way there after the hyena had moved off to have a look and see what had happened. So where the carcass was originally last night, you could see the jackal had been fighting and the brown hyena, and then it had been dragged about 20 meters to where it was. But let's say she didn't die in vain, because I now have a pointer. This is one of her wing feathers, the white. You do get the white in both the male and the female ostrich. But then from a distance yesterday, we could recognize that she was a female based purely on the fact that this feather was brown in coloration. So if it was a male, this feather would be predominantly black, and the majority of the feathers would be black. But I wanted to illustrate that I've got another feather. I'm just going to put that one on the ground. So this is a wing feather from the ostrich, and we picked up another feather the other day. This is most likely a wing feather from a spotted eagle owl. But I just wanted to illustrate the difference between a bird that flies and a bird that doesn't fly. So I'm going to just pop that under my arm. So if you have a look here, the way that the feathers, the barbs and the barbules attach themselves, I don't know if I must come closer, but you can see I can pull the feathers, literally all the different little barbules apart, and then if I smooth it with my fingers, they basically just zip back together. Birds need that so that when they fly, there's air resistance and gives them a little bit of lift. Ostrich, as you can see, there's actually nothing zipping the feathers together, and hence the reason ostriches can't fly. Probably for us it's just as well that ostriches can't fly, because remember how many times you've been pooped on by a bird. It's just as well that an ostrich can't fly. There we go. So even if there were any parasites or anything on that ostrich, they all, as soon as there was no sort of movement or blood or anything, they all would have hopped off. Sad state of affairs for the ostrich, but it is the circle of life. We're going to see, I walked past the front of the meerkat burrow and I saw absolutely no activity, so there's nobody coming there. So Minamu's asking the question, what is the difference between brown hyena and spotted hyena? Fortunately, Safari Live is in two places that both animals exist. So, if you've been watching and you watched this morning, you would have seen the brown hyena with us in our opening. That nice, very pointy ears, brown in coloration, very shaggy coat. And the spotted hyena tend to have more rounded ears, lots of spots, and have quite big bodies. But the brown hyena often appear very, very large. They're actually both social. The brown hyenas back at a den are more social than people actually think, but we tend to see them solitarily. So I'm just trying to find. So we can go, there's a nice illustration here in the mammals book, the spotted hyena on the top with the spots and the rounded ears, and then the brown hyena with the pointy ears and more shaggy coat. And you can have them occurring that they overlap in both areas, so it's not that the one overlaps more than the other. Where you tend to have both, sometimes the spotted hyena, because their clans can get really large, do tend to dominate. But the brown hyena like to live in the mountains, whereas the spotted hyena, like Corky and Ribbon in Djuma, like to live in big termite mounds. So hopefully that answers your question, Minamu. What is the difference? Just stick with Safari Live and I'm sure you'll see them regularly. Funny little creatures. I hadn't seen many of them in my career until coming to Tswalu. They definitely do prefer the more arid regions. So I'm just going to quickly have a look there. Just to be sure, a big spotted hyena, weight range right up to about 80 kilograms. So if you think about how often you see Corky and Ribbon in the Sabi sands, even after a meal, maybe 85 kilograms. The brown hyena, although they look large with their shaggy coat, up to about 58 kilos or kilograms at most. And we're so lucky we did actually see one this morning. So if we hadn't have seen the brown hyena at the lodge, we might have got the brown hyena here, but we couldn't be in two places at the same time. So luckily we got one of them. Just such a beautiful morning. We probably just carry on this morning bumbling in the dunes a little bit and see what else we can find. Maybe there's one or two other little creatures or beautiful plants or flowers that we can find.
Back to the burrows.
Okay, so we're having a look at the burrow system there, and nobody seems to have popped up. So we're going to send you to somebody watching a zebra having a drink. It looks like we're going to move on. It doesn't look like those meerkats are going to pop up this morning.
So we are actually on our way to see if we can go look for the lions that we saw yesterday, and we came across this little puddle of water where we found the cheetah with 3 cubs yesterday, the first time, and there is a beautiful zebra that's having a drink there now. And what's very cool about this sighting at the moment is that blue sky and the zebra reflecting in the water there. How incredible is that? Just a one big stallion, it seems. Oh, he's got a red-billed oxpecker on his back. Look at that. And there is a Ngala as well, just walking past in the back there. There's zebra's just turning his head, actually drinking now. giving us a perfect view. How is that reflection? That little puddle of water is like a mirror with that blue sky behind him. It seems like he's had enough of a drink already. You can see it's a Stanley knife. A drink. You can see it's a Stanley knife.
Okay, well, we haven't left yet because we'd heard something that we just going to see if we can hear again. What we did see yesterday in this little bush, I don't know if Owen can frame up on this bush, it was a little grey-headed sparrow nest, but I don't even know if we can actually see the nest in the blackthorn. I'll just go across there. Oh, I can see a spider web. So now I'm not too worried about walking around. We're not going to chase anything away. So it is... Oh. I'm trying to see if I can see any eggs. There's definitely beautiful little round grass tube, and then inside lots of the Bushman's silky grass to make it nice and warm, and lots of different grass seeds. It's a well-woven nest. Unfortunately, from your angle there, you're not seeing it, but the grey-headed sparrow was in here yesterday. She was in and out. It's a nice little, very clever place to put a nest in a blackthorn because, oh, I'm just trying to get a seed pod off there without landing up, being wrapped up in the blackthorn. So it is quite a smart place to put a nest in a thorn tree because some of the snakes, you think about a boomslang or one of the vine snakes, for them those thorns would be a little bit of a challenge to get to. I'm going to come a little bit closer to show you the seed pod of the blackthorn. It's a very sort of papery type of seed pod, and then it would... These are two different ones, so I'm making one now. So it would literally be two pieces of paper like that with the seeds. Generally, you see most of the time you see two seed pods or two seeds inside the pod like that, little brown seed. And generally what these I've stuck in the habit of calling them acacia trees, but they have changed their names recently. What they would do then is wait until the seed pod is actually dried out, and then on this little fine edge, it'll actually split. So it needs to dry out, and that's enough time for the seed to develop, and then it will split on that, and the seed will get exposed to that. Also, sometimes if you see how papery thin this is, if the seed is attached like that, and you have a windy day like we had yesterday, it also allows the seed to be transported further away from the parent plant, which is ideal because it potentially puts it in an area that there's less competition. And then in some of these areas you might find that this lands up against a sandbank or something. Literally it could be a divot, it could be a track in the ground that this lands in, and over time between the soil and other plant debris and everything it gets nice and buried. Then you have some rains and the seed pod just decides to germinate from there. So I'm just trying to see if I could find a tiny one, but I'm not seeing too much at the moment. But in this area as well, we've got this plant. It's called an eland bean. So Katie, as far as this particular seed pod of the blackthorn, I'm not 100% sure if there's that many animals that eat it. Normally the acacia seed pods, you'll have birds that'll eat the seeds. It's like a little protein package. Very often seeds are adapted for going through the digestive system of an animal or a mammal or a bird in order to be transported and deposited somewhere else. So very often you'll have seeds that'll actually have even a fatty tissue deposit that will attract even an insect, for example, like an ant, to actually take it down underground. They get the little fatty tissue as a present for them, but effectively they've buried the seed. So But the actual tree, everybody loves that tree. The giraffe, the kudu, black rhino, they will eat that tree. So I came here to the eland bean, but I'm looking for one with flowers. So this one, Owen remarked the other day, it looks very, very similar to a peltiforum, a weeping wattle, which is a tree that you'd see at Djuma. We don't get them here, but it's the same as what they call a bipinnately compound leaf. So if I take what is actually a leaf, there's plenty of them, and nobody eats these, so losing a leaf won't do too much damage. That is one leaf. And then this is a pinnule, and then the little leaflets are pinnae. So this would be called a bipinnately compound leaf, and if you were trying to look in a tree book to find this, you would use that as your key, one of your key identifying features. So with this particular thing in the Kalahari, it makes sense to have really, really tiny leaves, because when it is excessively hot, just like we sweat, so plants also lose moisture. What they will do on a day where it's incredibly hot is these leaves will actually fold along the vein and almost close up, so that they limit the amount of surface area that is exposed to the sun. I'm just going to walk around and see if I can see one close by that Owen can zoom in on that's flowering. They get a beautiful yellow flower that comes from the base. So Paul is asking, are any of these plants medicinal? When it comes to the eland bean, they're actually seen as toxic to animals, so it's not a choice plant for animals, and very often if it's not a choice plant for animals, it's not a good one for people. There is one here that I'm going to try and see. Is it this one? I'm trying to look for one that's called a senna. Here we go. Can you follow me here, Owen? Can you see this one? I'm going to lift it up a little bit so you can see this one here. Beautiful little yellow flowers. We can probably find a better example later, but this is called a senna, and you all know the laxative. In South Africa, we have one that's called senna kot, and it will come from something like this plant. So this plant definitely would have been used by the local people as a laxative. It's also in Afrikaans known as a swart storm, which is a black storm. You can imagine that it will probably evacuate the bowels very, very quickly. So it's not one to mess with. I certainly wouldn't go too heavy on having too much of this plant. But absolutely beautiful flower and makes a nice little ground cover. Because the plants struggle so hard here, they spread out as a creeper, they're getting good sunshine, and over the season, once they die off, all of those nutrients go into the soil. We'll come forward to another little pretty one. I don't know if you can see. There's some that are also making really, really beautiful flowers. I don't know how close you can go in on that one, but that I think this is one of the indigophoras. Also a beautiful plant. So the local people, the bushmen, the sand bushmen, would have had lots of different uses for some of these plants. There's another one here which is known as a doll's rose. I'm going to probably bring you one of these because they're absolutely beautiful. I'm going to break off a branch here. You need to see these flowers close by. They are very, very pretty. There's just so much detail in this plant. I'm going to hold it. Is that close enough?
That's good.
You can actually see beautiful, beautiful. Look at the detail in that. I mean, it's just one tiny little bush, but look at the effort that nature's gone to make this absolutely stunning flower. So these belong to the group of Hermanias. Sometimes they call them doll's roses. So Jen is asking, are any of the plants poisonous to touch? Not the ones that are here at the moment that we're touching, but generally something that has a milky latex, a sort of a white milky latex is one of the ones that you've got to be very careful of. We have a plant species here called a euphorbia, and that has got properties that if you get that latex on your skin, it will go into an immediate blister. It's also known that if you get that liquid in your eyes, you can potentially suffer temporary blindness or permanent eye damage. So there are certain plants that you have to be careful of if you touch them or break them. But obviously, if you don't know, don't eat them. Don't break them, don't touch them. So the euphorbia, we'll see the only euphorbias we have are up in the mountains. One of the days when we're driving along the base of the mountain, we'll frame up on one of those. It's called a Euphorbia avis montana. So montana meaning mountains. It prefers living up in the mountains. And if we had a look at that, we should see the white latex from there. The euphorbia sort of genus actually came from the king of Mauritania. I don't know when dates-wise, I can never remember history, but many, many years ago, the doctor to the king of Mauritania was known as Dr. Euphorbus, and he used to use a lot of medicinal plants in order to treat the royalty, and he then got given the privilege of being named the genus of the Euphorbia genus. Keep your questions coming. Hashtag WildEarth. I'm still in search of a eland bean in flower. James is asking if there are any endangered or protected plant species on Tswalu. Funnily enough, there are, because things like camel thorn, they're protected. The shepherd's tree that Carl's been showing you with a nice white bark, that's protected. We also have a type of a succulent called a hoodia. That's also in the protected category. So very often you'll find that it'll be plants in one area that are endemic to that particular area. Then those tend to be potentially endangered or protected. And that's because their distribution is so limited, which means they're a highly, highly specialized plant. Sometimes you have these little, they call them stone crops or lithops. They almost look like elephants' feet. They are little succulents that come out of the ground. And you have people that collect those for their gardens. So that's also one of the reasons why certain of the plants have become endangered, is because people have wanted to collect them for species, especially if they are endemic and hold some form of a rarity. I'm just still looking. Here's an interesting, Owen can show you here. For you with a camera, it probably just looks like soil. But for me, from above, there's a little keyhole shape. Roughly like that. This is a scorpion that did some housekeeping after the last rains. So the burrow goes down and in, sort of at a 45-degree angle. It'll be quite a big scorpion, judging by, I'm always nervous to stick my fingers there, but judging by that, that's the width across the carapace of the back of the scorpion. So there's a real big one in this hole here. And she'll live in there and probably about 30 centimeters below the ground, and then she'll have a little chamber area where she can move around. She can feed underground, and then every now and again you just get the housekeeping. Sometimes you get the exoskeleton and the remains of some insects. Sometimes, I don't see it too much here, but sometimes the rings of millipedes. We see, I'm just having a look. So she's done lots of housekeeping after the rains. No. Nothing that I can see from here. So she'll come out at night very often and just outside the entrance of the burrow and sit with her pincers outside of the burrow, waiting for things to run past. She'll grab them and then she'll go and eat them in the safety of the burrow. So she's a burrowing scorpion. You also find scorpions that live under logs, under trees, under bushes, and they go actively foraging at night. Let's see if we can find any other tracks around. I'm still looking for a flower. This particular patch of eland beans doesn't seem to have any flowers at all. Oh, I found another one. I found another flower over here. I can bring this one to you too, Owen. I feel like I'm probably not being the most sensitive botanist this morning because I'm bringing things to you, but they're not all able to be seen close on camera. So if I stop here, this one is called a string of stars. Look how beautiful. Also, the absolute incredible detail on those little white flowers. This one has a scientific name which is quite interesting. It's called helio meaning sun. So helios, Heliotropum studnerii. So studnerii, when you have a neri eye or an ii on the end of a scientific name, that generally means it's named after a person. But this one, they believe that they are sun followers. So the string of stars will actually open and turn and follow the sun during the day. So a very, very pretty flower, that Heliotropum studnerii. I don't know if there is any medicinal use for this. So from a string of stars across to some big and hairies with Djuma. That's just beautiful.
We've just gotten to this big dried out watering hole, and there in the distance you can see a lot of animals. There's some wildebeest, zebras, some buffalo and some warthogs all coming to the water there. And right here close to us, in the small thickets below, there is some lions that's actually lying and watching all these animals close to the watering hole there. A lot happening at the moment. Some wildebeest chasing each other around. We can hear some Ngala's alarm calling behind us as well, which makes us think that there's maybe some other lions in the area of this pride. And there you can see the lions lying, trying to get into this bit of shade that these small bushes are offering. They're all looking at those animals that are right there by the watering hole, but it's a massive open clearing to get there. So I think it would be quite difficult for them to stalk them without any of the animals noticing. It's the same lions we found in this big dried out watering hole yesterday, so they haven't moved too far. But this individual that we can see its head sticking out, looks like it might be an adult female. Difficult to see with her body being behind the bush like that. I don't know if you could hear just now, there was a few alarm calls of even monkeys behind us here. I think this might be an adult female sitting up right here. Just looking at the muscle in the shoulder there and how big the head is with no bits of mane that we know there's some subadult males in this pride. Look at the wildebeest running there in the distance. All trying to get a little bit away from the water there. Look how even the buffalo are running a bit. Wonder if the alarm calls that we can hear is making them all a little bit nervous. But the wildebeest there, it looks like it's a big bull that's chasing some of the younger bulls and some of the females there. Oh, even a warthog running there now. don't think there's a predator just yet. It's a lot of social interaction happening there between the wildebeests, because I think the buffalo would have shown a bit more reaction if there was a predator there. Just keep an eye on them. You never know, they might be picking up on a scent of something like a lion that's somewhere around here. But for now, I think we are going to keep an eye. Yo, look at those wildebeest go. It's definitely a dominant bull chasing them around. But for now, I think we're going to hang around here. We're going to see if we can maybe look what those alarm calls are for. And then we are going to be going over to Tswalu, where she's got some hyenas.
Good morning, everyone. It's so wonderful to be out. We've had some wonderful heavy rain, and now we're here at the den with Ribbon and her two cubs that cannot be seen because they're too close to the vehicle as usual. Hi, everyone. It's me, Tswalu, and I have Theo on camera with me. Wonderful morning out on Djuma Game Reserve. It's very nice and cool, 23 degrees Celsius, 73 degrees Fahrenheit, and it's cloudy, but there's patches of blue sky, which is very exciting. We had lots of thunder and lightning this morning, and bout of quite heavy rain. So that's just been really nice because it means that the pans and things like that, the mud wallows, will get wet again, start to fill up, and I hope this is the beginning of our consistent rains. And we see the bush transform again, because the last couple of days of heat has made the bush a little bit dry, a little bit brown. It's tinged just a bit, so it'll become green and lush again. Ribbon is enjoying quite an interesting pose. Excuse me for a second. I can feel them pulling at something under the vehicle. There we go. Now they're out. Hey! Aren't they wonderfully naughty, these things? Feels like I've got a mechanic under the vehicle, adjusting stuff. Ribbon doesn't seem to mind at all. Better we entertain her little ones than she. She looks strangely comfortable, I think. Even though this is an odd pose, I think it looks very comfortable. I can imagine sitting like that. Oi! Come out from under the car. These things. At least as they grow, they'll get a little bit less curious. And you won't see them biting the vehicle and all of that. It's usually something that happens when they're cubs. They're just so curious. They walk around camp like they own the place. Come on, puppets. Can't even see them. You haven't even seen them this segment because they're all under the car. All right, I'm going to send you over to Deirdre and those wonderful meerkats, and hopefully these cubs will be out by the time you come back to me. Hey, now you want to come out.
So there they are. We literally only about 300 meters to the south of where we were with the ostrich. So the meerkats, obviously, while Owen and I weren't watching yesterday, they snuck a little bit further to the south. Obviously, those jackals around and present last night were just too much for them. So they moved to another section of burrows. And we see that it is still the same four that we saw yesterday. So when family found out that I was going to be on Safari Live and friends, I start getting all these little WhatsApp messages of, hey, can you show me this? Can you show me this? I get a whole list. So these ones are specifically for my little niece. Her name's Megan. Meerkat's one of her favorites. She sent me a message last night saying, Auntie, please can you show me more meerkats? So she's definitely a fan. But if you're a fan, click your likes and carry on following, and also ask your questions on #WildEarth. These guys are just busy doing some housekeeping this morning. And probably still keeping an eye out in case there's any jackal that are still around. But we haven't seen any, so they should be good to go. It's warming up quite nicely now. They'll probably start heading out scurrying, looking for those little scorpion holes to see what they can dig up for the morning. Look left, look right. So while they're busy cleaning in the burrows, they're constantly talking to each other. There's sort of constant chirping, whoever's on sentry. It's almost like a reassurance type of a chirp that he just says, don't worry, I've still got it, I'm still on duty. But we were talking a little bit about it yesterday. As soon as the group starts getting quite small, like this, it's quite difficult for them to balance sentry duty as well as food. And very often that makes them more vulnerable to predators because each one is just got to find enough food for themselves, but also try and look out for the rest. And sometimes we had one group that was 14, and by the time they dwindled down, I think it actually became the Horsa group that landed up. Now there's sort of 3 or 4 of them left. And meerkats is also, it's difficult to keep up with the days of their lives. They keep chopping and changing as to who wants to live where. So one day you have a group of 14, the next day 5 of them have left, or a wild one rocks up, like what's happened with the rock stars. And then the dynamics changes. So having our 3 groups of meerkats relatively close to each other is actually quite an interesting thing, because we're with them daily to actually see those changes in the dynamics. If it's just a wild environment, we wouldn't know what's happened over the last time frame with these guys. But in Afrikaans, known as a stokstaart, which is a stick tail, and that's, you can see they use their tail pretty much like a tripod to balance on. Every now and again they get a little bit tired, like that one, and they just sit down, as long as they can see what's going on around them. What a picture. Like he's posing. You can actually see there's quite a lot of activity in the background there behind the meerkat in a beautiful shepherd's tree. One of those trees that we call one of the protected trees. And you can see that a sociable weaver's nest has actually got too large for that tree, and a section has actually fallen down onto the ground. You can see the weavers still coming in and out. Sometimes the sunlight catches on their wings. They're little busy bodies this morning, so they're always constantly getting little bits of grass, flying them in, fixing, adding to the nest. It's quite a hive of activity. Absolutely beautiful morning. We're going to move on, see what we can find next.
It is very, very beautiful. I hope that she'll find everything that her heart desires today. Maybe she'll feel as content as Ribbon looks. Still trying to get the cubs too. I've moved quite a bit to try and get them away from us, so we're a little bit further away from everything. But they're still coming out, obviously. But the birds are chirping. Everything's very nice and peaceful, and it's just slightly raining. And that's a really pretty time in the bush. If we have a look here at this round leaf teak, you can see very, very pretty raindrops all falling on top of it, on it. Look at that. I love when the bush looks like this because it looks like tiny little lights all around because of the way that it's reflecting the few slivers of sunlight that we're managing to get. Oh yay, somebody has emerged from under the vehicle. And a bit of anal pasting for the morning. Yeah, just lovely. At least they're out from under the vehicle. I must be boring, and Wendy must be boring now. Hopefully they'll start playing around and we can have some fun here at the den with them.
Welcome back to andBeyond Ngala, everyone. Beacon and myself got very wet. There was a quick little burst of rain, but if you look around you can see the sun is out and it's started to clear up really nicely for us. We've changed our plan. We headed away from that carcass this morning. Didn't manage to pick up on any tracks of the lions. I think they might have headed west in a westerly direction, sort of out of Ngala's property. So we've tried to come into the east to see if maybe the tracks of the Birmingham Pride have crossed back in, and we've come across this very big elephant bull. Can you see how he's really dark in colour? And that's not because he's been wallowing and throwing water on himself like you saw yesterday with Dan pretty much all day. I think that is from the rain that has fallen all over him. And there's lots and lots of water around, and it's a little bit of a tricky view, but if you look carefully, listen, you might be able to hear him drinking. So even though there's lots of water around, this elephant bull has come down to the riverbed, and he's come into this area where there's quite a lot of reeds around, a couple wild date palms as well, and he's dug into the sand. We haven't had a good look at the hole yet, but I'm sure that he's dug quite deeply down there, and when he does dig, this riverbed's got quite a shallow water table, and the water sieves up through the sand. Nice, very nice, clean water. And this Eddie seems to be quite relaxed this morning. There were a couple more just over his back and to the right. They're not in, we can't see them right now. But these elephant bulls have been moving around for the last few days. We have seen this specific one. I'm hoping that he does come out into view. He's got a really nice set of tusks on him. And yeah, they've been feeding on the northern bank just behind us and moved down slowly into the riverbed. You can see how they've got quite a lot of mud on him as well. And I think that might be dry mud from yesterday when it was really hot, covering himself in the mud. And then the rain this morning has just given a bit of moisture to the skin. You can see the mud really starting to come through. See how his ears are flapping as well. It's not too hot this morning, so I think it might just be the fact that there's some insects bothering him, maybe a fly or two, just trying to flap them away. But amazing that you can hear it. Listen carefully. Hear him drinking again as well. And it's really important for these animals, and elephants in general will try and drink almost every day where there is water available. Not desperate for them to drink every day, but if there is water around, they will try and find it and drink it. And these elephants have known over history that this Timbavati riverbed has got that shallow water table that I was mentioning, so they really do enjoy coming and digging for water and drinking. Really quite quiet in the riverbed this morning as well. Birds have not started to come out yet after the rain. I think they're still the bird's still trying to dry off a little bit, but while this elephant continues to drink here, hopefully he's going to move out for us into a clearer view. But in the meantime, we're going to send you over to Phinda with Deerbolt and a family of warthogs.
We are still having a look at that watering hole in the back there. There's two tiny little piglets that is probably less than a week old or so, that is running around and trying to get away from that one warthog that's completely wet, just trying to get to the water there. It's getting really, really hot. There's lots of warthogs around the watering hole there, but we are patiently waiting to see what these lions get up to. That's down here at the bottom, but look at that one chasing the piglets. How interesting is that? Looks like a female. It's difficult to say from this distance, but doesn't want the piglets to go to the water. Oh, and the poor piglets just wants to get to some water or maybe to their mother. And there's some woolly neck stalks there in between the warthogs as well, also coming for some water. And there comes a herd of wildebeest walking in one straight line to the water as well. All the animals coming to the water before it gets too hot a little bit later. Oh my goodness, look at the warthogs fighting there. Wow. I think everyone's temperaments are a little bit high at the moment, with there being so little water around and there only being a little bit of muddy patches or so for the warthogs to wallow in. Look at all the wildebeest coming down to drink now. We've actually been looking at this herd of wildebeest for a while before they came to drink. Andre, you're asking what is the purpose of wallowing or the process of wallowing? With wallowing like this with warthogs, it's I think today it's to cool down and try and protect themselves against the sun and cool themselves down as much as possible. But it also removes ticks and other parasites and acts as a barrier for biting insects and parasites also. And you might find that these warthogs will, after making themselves or covering themselves in mud, they'll go and find a big rock or something. Let's see, there's actually a rock there and some pieces of wood there close to the watering hole, that they'll go and rub that mud off, and that will take the ticks and so off of them. Oh, there's a warthog still chasing the little piglets there. I think that actually does look like a boar. I'm looking at the size of the warts or the growths on his face. They're quite big, so I think that is a boar that's chasing all the other warthogs away from the watering hole. So we were looking at these wildebeest for quite a while, and they were taking it very slow to come down to the watering hole. But if you have a look at them, a lot of them have very big stomachs, and you can see how low their stomachs are also hanging. So I think there's a lot of cows there that are pregnant, and we might see some wildebeest calves being born within the next couple of weeks or so. And look at that, how quickly those wildebeest just had a drink and they're going again. Only one of them still there. Yeah, the wildebeest starting to walk in their little line there on the game trail that they've probably been walking for years and years, going back to their grazing. Look at the one just trotting, trying to catch up with the rest. But for now, I think we are gonna just stand by here now, and there's these lions that we've got just out of shot. They are still keeping an eye on all the animals around. We're hoping that we get lucky. But for now, you'll head over to DJ, where he's got some wildebeest that are also up to something.
So, welcome back to Tswalu. We've also got a group of wildebeest here, but they've been milling around, so indecisive. There's this beautiful camel thorn tree behind us that has the perfect shade, and they were underneath there, then they were out, then they were underneath, then they were out. And this group has split off, and another 4 have gone the other way, and now the bull is betwixt and between, because he's trying to gather those 4 to come back and join the rest of the herd. So he's making all sorts of funny noises, and maybe if we pan right, Owen, he's going to collect them now. They're not paying attention, they're not wanting to be part of the group. He's trying to keep everybody together. It's one territorial bull of the 5 there, he's the one that's just popped out on the left-hand side. But he's called them, he's trying to herd them and say, hey, we're actually going this way. The group is moving this way. And, oh, we've got a little bit of argy-bargy on the left here. If you go to the ones on the road, there's a little bit, the little guy's getting picked on. You can see, they're obviously, oh, shame. So those, the youngsters with the different shaped horns, there's sort of 3 in the middle, they're about 10 months old. So their mothers would be pregnant already, and literally it is any day now that the wildebeest calf should be born. If I have a look at this group, there are definitely 1 or 2 females that are rather large, so ready to drop. But we also we've come out of a very dry year, so not necessarily all of them would be successful in having fallen pregnant in that time frame. You look at them all at the tree, they're rubbing their heads. So they do have a gland on their face called a preorbital gland. It's like a little bare patch just below the eye, and every now and again they smell on the base of the tree and rub their heads. That's more typical for the bull to do, to mark his territory. He's running back and forth. He can't decide. He's trying to go and fetch the other 4 to tell them that, no, we want to go this way. And then these youngsters are just getting pushed around. That's how they learn. It's like their mothers are trying to herd them to say, well, this is the way that the rest of the group is going, so move on. We can, oh. He's eventually convinced them. Here he comes. He's running across the road now, and there's one that's a little bit further ahead, and then the other 3, they've kind of put their head down and they're moving in that direction. So they've heard him, and they're on their way to gather together. They won't be doing too much more feeding now, or grazing, as it were, because it's starting to get quite warm. So a nice indicator of a day that's going to be incredibly hot is if the wildebeest are under the trees by about 8:30 in the morning. Then we know we're in for an absolute cooker. They're still busy pushing each other around in that. Sometimes they're also known as the clowns of the bush, but then when you see them do strange things like this, it's no surprise. So, yesterday we were talking about males and females having horns. With the wildebeest, it's exactly the same. When they were a little bit closer earlier, it was going to be a nice demonstration, but they've decided to be all over the place. So we'll wait for another group of wildebeest to show you how you can just sex them at a distance. You can see their tails are vigorously moving, and that's from all the little louse flies, which are like a biting fly. They're not the most pleasant thing to be bitten by. Owen, go down the road. I think that one might want to start scratching and rolling in the sand. I think it might be. Sometimes if they're in the sandy patch, they dig with their hooves. They decide that they want to roll in the sand. I think those 2 are trying to escape. Yeah. They keep looking to see where the bull is, and then they're trying to sneak away. So outside of the breeding season, then the females can be away from the males, and the males will be territorial on their own. So sometimes you'll find just groups of females, no territorial male. Sometimes you'll find a territorial male just by himself, and he'll be defending his territory. And then as soon as the females move in, he's trying to keep them all with him within his territory, obviously, because now if they're ready to calve within a short time frame, by next sort of couple of months, they'd be ready for breeding again. So will they be successful? They can have a calf every year. Oh, he's got them all running now, so he's got them all going in the right direction. Good job. Oh, he picked up a bit of speed. Look at him go. Wow. Look at him go. Somebody's got some energy. Somebody ate their jungle oats for breakfast. Oh, he's chasing, so he's bringing somebody around from the top. Obviously, another female that decided she was heading in another direction. He's herding her back to the group. Must be tough for this guy. He's got so many ladies to keep up after he's chasing them around all over the place. So while they move off into that area, so as the wildebeest go up and over the dunes, Nick has got something much bigger to show you. You can head across that side.
So welcome back to andBeyond Ngala, everyone, and we have stuck around with this elephant. He has now moved from the left-hand side of the road and the river to the right-hand side, so we still don't have an excellent view of him. But we did try get a little bit closer and move around, and the elephant was a little bit cheeky towards us. So we've had a look at him, and the wind started blowing in our direction, and we got this really strong smell coming from him, and it smelt like musth, and this elephant is actually in musth. So as we tried to edge past him, he was not having any of that, and he pushed us right backwards. And we don't want to push him too much this morning, because when he is in musth, they do become a little bit irritated. They don't like any animals or vehicles coming too close to them. They tend to chase them away. Quite interesting to see him in musth with a couple of other bulls that are around, a couple of smaller bulls, in fact. And that's super important for those younger bulls to learn when a large elephant like this one does come into musth, that they should not push him around or not get too playful with him. He's moved across to some of the reeds on the right-hand side, and if you listen carefully, you can hear his trunk carefully breaking off some of the reeds and feeding. And he's still quite chilled. As soon as we've given him a bit of space, that's when he has been a bit more relaxed with us. And when these elephant bulls do come into musth, especially a large bull like this one, he might come into musth for a period of maybe a month, 2 months at the age that he's at. As they get older, their state of musth tends to extend for longer periods. And this is hugely important for elephants and breeding elephants in this area. A cow will only be receptive to a bull if he is in musth, and that's just when his testosterone levels are a little bit heightened or elevated, and that's when he will be able to breed with females. So given the fact that he is in musth, there's a good chance that at a later stage today, or if he does pick up on any signs of a herd, he might get a scent of some females moving past, he might hear them, he might even see them. He'll more than likely head towards that herd to investigate, to see if any females are in estrus and are ready to mate. I'm just going to move a little bit forward here quickly. Could be interesting to see how he reacts to us. He does look like he's got enough space on the other side of this wild date palm, but we'll just see his reaction. Yeah, he seems to be moving to the right-hand side. So we'll just sneak up here behind this bush and see if we can get a nice view of him. There's a bit of a better view from this angle. See how he's turning his head immediately towards us though. Seems to be quite relaxed for now, but we'll just keep a close eye on him. If he does start moving towards us, we might just move away. Don't want to be too far in his space this morning. You can see just starting to pop through the reeds there are those beautiful tusks of him. He's got a really nice set of tusks on him. Oh, here he comes. It's been a bit of a game of cat and mouse this morning with him. We try and get a nice view of him, and then he starts to push us away a little bit. And it's not only vehicles that elephant bulls and musth will get irritated with. Pretty much anything. Spur fowls, francolins, impala, anything that's around he'll chase. And now BK, if you zoom in on his back legs, it was a little bit difficult to pick up on earlier because he is so wet from the rain. But you can see how that fluid is running down his back legs. Oh, and he's dropping some dung as well whilst moving. And that liquid pours out of his penis sheath and then dribbles down his leg. And the easiest way to pick up on that is obviously to look and see if his legs are a little bit wet. However, this morning, that whole leg is wet from the rain. So it's not as easy to pick up on the fact that he was in musth. And then what BK and myself smelt was actually what got our attention towards that. Starting to move, sending you over to Djuma for a quick link.
Well, as you can see, we have a yellow-billed stork that is, well, struggling to get its breakfast down. Unfortunately, its breakfast is very, very large, so we'll get back to that pretty shortly. My name is Tristan. On camera, I've got Johan this morning, and it's nice to finally be out. If it's not raining, it's brutal sunshine. Oh, the fish is gone. It went down the gullet, I'm afraid, but now you'll see that they'll wash it down with a bit of water. You're going to find that there's going to be a little drink, and that kind of gets the fish going all the way down into the stomach. It was a decent-sized individual. I couldn't see nicely what it was. It looked like maybe one of the tilapia species, which is good to see because obviously this dam was completely dry just over a year ago. There was no water in it at all. So it's amazing how quick the fish population starts to recover, and you get fish that are of a decent size in here. It's why I'm sure these yellow-billed storks and saddle-billed storks are spending a lot of time in this area, but there's probably a fairly healthy food source, which is really, really good to see. Often a lot of you ask how quickly these dams repopulate with fish, and the answer is pretty fast. As these drainage lines flow and you start to get water washing in from bigger dams, so small little fry are washed in, and you get different species. So you'll get catfish, you'll get tilapia, you'll get or bream, whatever you want, whichever one you want to call it, and you'll get all kinds of other smaller little things that come in. And so those kind of wash in from the river systems, and then they get into these dams, and then they live here. But catfish and tilapia are the two kind of main staple diets in this particular part of the world in terms of fish species that come into these little pans or dams, and that are then hunted by these beautiful big birds that we're seeing around Buffelshoek Dam at the moment. Now, the plan for this morning is to just try and bumble about, see what's happening. It's obviously rained quite a bit this morning, so we're going to just try and figure out if we can find any sign of anything. Just before the last heavy downpour that we had, the baboons were alarm calling quite heavily at the dam cam area, so around Gowrie Dam. Unfortunately, though, the one road that probably holds what was causing the alarm calls is closed after that heavy rain. It's a road that runs through a seep line, and it doesn't do well in the rain at all, so we can't go and check there. But maybe Tingana or Tlalamba or one of them moving around in that general vicinity. So I was going to check there, but I've done the roads that I can that kind of lead up to there that are open, and there's no sign of anything at this stage. It's not to say that something won't emerge now that the sun is coming out, and we'll get a bit of a sign a little bit later. And so now I'm just kind of heading to the east, and I'll slowly bumble southwards and see if we can't find any sign of species. Interesting. All right, well, I'm going to head north instead, which will be really, really cool.
Is that animal?
Join us around the fire as we have our very first Wild Earth Explorers fireside chat.
And what that means is that if you are an explorer, we're inviting you to come and join us so we can chat about the greatest highlights of 2020.
We will be chatting about our favorite characters and what they have been up to during the course of this year.
And if you would like to join us, head over to our Explorers page and subscribe. Don't miss out. This fireside chat will be on the 13th of December at 7:30 p.m. Central African Time, straight after Sunset Safari.
Join our Explorers program so we can keep on sharing nature with the world. For a monthly subscription, you will have the opportunity to win fantastic Wild Earth expeditions, have access to an animal identification app, receive weekly highlights from our shows, and much more. All the money will go to keeping these live safaris on air, which in turn connects a global population with nature.
Hello everyone, my name is Trishala and I am a naturalist and safari guide here in Djuma Game Reserve in the Sabi Sands in South Africa. I think that the information that we provide, and most importantly the questions that you ask, give both you and I a really good idea of what's going on. My friend Fernando here, he's a flat-necked chameleon and I love them. They're just these gems that you manage to find in the bush.
Catch up with the guides daily here on Wild Earth. Have you been watching Wild Earth and dreamt of being right there on safari with one of the guides? Well, now you can. WildEarth is offering you a chance to buy a ticket to dream. You or a friend can hop on board a live WildEarth show and join our guide on safari. The ticket is redeemable at any of our locations, anytime in the future. Only a limited number of tickets are available, so don't wait. Get your ticket now and start dreaming. Terms and conditions apply.
We've just been relaxing here at the den with these three. Not much else has happened, and now the two of Ribbon's cubs are just chilling out too. My car is far less interesting than it was. There's this cute little guy just in front of us. You have a bit of a relaxing session in the shade. Oh, look at that. Very, very cute. Well, down here I see some hyena scat. I hope we'll be able to see it. It's just off down here. White little blotches. It's so white it's reflecting the sunlight. And then we have some carcass beetle. Looks like a bit of a carcass beetle. Crawling about on it. And I wanted to show it to you because we don't often spend time with scat, especially when Steve's not around, the scat man. But you can see that's very white, and that speaks to just how strong their digestive system is, because all their bones that they consume, all that calcium, they can actually be able to digest that bone, and the calcium gets passed through and the scat becomes calcified. When it's fresh, it's brown, and then as it gets exposed to the air, it hardens. Like this. The only thing that they're not able to digest is hair. Everything else is definitely not going to waste. They're so important to the ecosystem because they clean up. And they make sure that everything is put to good use. And so we've always spoken about how every animal has a role. And hyenas have a very special role, and just like vultures, in cleaning up. And their digestive juices are so strong, their acids, that they're able to eat some very, very rancid carrion and leftovers. And instead of that festering and bacteria, things like that being exposed to the environment, they get consumed. And it actually makes the bush a little bit safer in terms of infection and bacteria and all that sorts of stuff. Very, very necessary to the environment. The sun's popping out quite nicely now, so everyone's going to get a little bit drier. They smell very much like wet dog. And when they were coming past the vehicle, you could see just how wet their fur is. The young ones obviously more so because they've got a little bit longer fur than the adults do. And quite shaggy and fluffy. So we're going to move on, I think, for now. We've sat here for a bit and they're just having a peaceful morning. So we're going to go off and see what else we can find. And we're going to send you over to Deirdre, who's got some yellow flowers.
So we finally found an eland bean with some flowers. So Owen's busy zoomed in on that. Beautiful, beautiful flowers. Very, very limited scent, but that bright yellow color will attract mostly sort of insects and flies. I don't know if there's too much of a nectar reward, but it's more also about the color reward, so that it can be visually seen from a distance. You may also find that there's actually a ground insect. It makes sense to me. I don't know exactly. I haven't read it in a book, but it makes sense to me that there's potentially a ground insect that would move around and potentially pollinate these, because all of the flowers are based low down on the stem and not high up for being sort of pushed around or being pollinated by the wind. So that is quite interesting. And then there is another yellow flower that we've got here that we found, which I know the viewers that have been regular with the Kalahari know that we've got this unique tree called a grey camel thorn, which is where I am now, and also nice bright yellow flowers. They're known as globose, is what type of flower that they are, and also bright yellow in order to visually attract insects. So wouldn't worry too much about sending out a smell, but rather color visual. But the interesting thing about the camel thorn, I'm going to try it. Hopefully you can see lots of spikes or thorns. So let me see. This is generally very flexible. So that is exactly what the giraffe would do. You see how those thorns fold? Ow, it's not so easy as it normally is. You generally have to pick a branch that's got slightly softer thorns, and it's relatively easy. I can try this one. I can see that they're little yellow. So you just see how those thorns easily fold. My hands are fine, but very flexy thorns. And generally, if you start as a browser, if I was a giraffe, Dan tried to be a bit of a giraffe yesterday, so I'm not going to eat these. They're definitely not going to be palatable to my taste. But if you're a browser and you come along here and you start feeding and feeding and feeding, so that tree feels like it's being attacked, and it starts increasing the chemical compounds in the leaves, which we know as tannins, and start making themselves taste quite bitter. At the same time as that tree is being attacked, it sends the pheromones on the wind and tells other trees of the same species that there's a predator in the area, and they must also increase their tannin content in their leaves. I know the regulars have heard that story many, many times. But this is an absolute favorite for giraffe and black rhino, even kudu, any one of the browsers. But just beautiful. But you can clearly see we also have a hybrid species between the grey camel thorn and the normal camel thorn, and the difference there is the leaves and the seed pods. We're going to send you over to Djuma that does actually have an animal. He's got a rhino, but whether it's black or white, I don't know. We'll send you there.
We came around to the watering hole, and look what is happening here. Look at these two young white rhino bulls coming, and just everyone making way for them to come have a drink. How incredible is that? Only with the one rhino drinking at the moment. Lots of warthogs around here coming for the mud and the water. But look at all the animals just waiting for those rhinos to have a drink before they go and have a drink. I think these wildebeests are actually alarm calling maybe towards the lions that we heard earlier that was lying right out in the open. But it's difficult to say for sure. These two white rhinos have not been at water or watering hole this morning by the looks of things. Just looking at how dry they are, there's no new mud or anything on them. Maybe if we're a little bit patient, we might see them come and wallow in the water and muddy parts here close to us. There's a warthog right in the water there, and looks like all the other warthogs are also coming to cool down. Look at that. rolling around. Warthog is really enjoying this muddy patch that's down here at the bottom. The water is not very deep. You can see how deep the Warthog is lying in there. See, trying to cover as much of its body as possible. Another Warthog there lying down in the water on the right. And there we go, doing a bit of a roll around, trying to get the cold water and mud onto his back. Nothing looks quite as satisfying as a Warthog covering his whole body with mud. The one, in the middle of the watering hole is not phased at all, not really rolling around. Oh, there we go, rolling around a bit now, but really enjoying this cool water and mud. The tail's up and moving a little bit away. So any change in the wind or any funny sounds around this watering hole, all the animals will be a little bit nervous. I can even every now and then see some red-breasted swallows coming in for a gulp of water as well. You might see them come across every now and then. Oh, that one's nice and muddy now. Might have had enough. See, going to the edge of the water there. Didi, you are asking what are Warthog's main predator? On Phinda in this particular area, it's leopard and lion. Oh, look at this Warthog just going and rolling against that little muddy section there. Was cooling down earlier in the water, but now trying to get that thick mud onto its back. Look at that. Rubbing his bum into the mud as well. Let's see how he's like using the little bit of like a wall there to rub up against it as well and get the sand and dirt stuck onto his wet body. People pay lots of money to go to spas to get some mud on them, and this Warthog is just enjoying it. The original mud bathers. Let's see if that other Warthog there in the back was just maybe waiting for these to move off a little bit. There, she's also going into the water. I wonder if these white rhinos are also keen to come to this watering hole to down at the bottom where there's some mud to wallow. I think we're going to stick around and keep an eye on them and see if they do. But for now, you'll be going to neck with a bird on a kill.
So welcome back to andBeyond in Ngala, everyone, and I hear you enjoying a nice sighting with Deerwald and some warthogs at Phinda. We've come across a really interesting bird at first that was on the road, and it flew off into that magic quarry bush. If you have a look carefully on its bill, you'll see it's thrashing it from side to side. It's got really a long insect inside its mouth, and it is a centipede. quite a large specimen as well at that. And you can see how this hornbill's being very cautious with this. Oh, and there it is off. But being very cautious with the centipede in its bill, moving it from side to side. It was actually beating it against that branch for a stage as well. And that centipede that it had in its mouth is quite a venomous insect or animal. And it's got quite a toxic sting on the back of it that can really, really hurt a human and a bird as well. So it's super interesting to see how the hornbill managed to catch it and fly over there. And this time of year as well, with the hornbills, they are starting to breed and starting to create their nests. And I saw yesterday, I think it was Tristan at Djuma with the hornbill nest, showing how the female gets closed into a hole. And I wonder if that male hasn't caught that centipede this morning, beating it, trying to kill it, and potentially where it flew off now. I don't think it was from us. I think it might be moving off to another area, maybe towards the nesting site of the pair of hornbills. Quite an interesting bird. We've got quite a few of them around, so not rare to see the bird, but super interesting to see it with that large centipede in its mouth. Other species that we get here being the southern red-billed hornbill, much more of a digging hornbill. It's got a sharper bill. I don't know if you saw that yellow-billed hornbill's bill, quite a conical shape, quite a large bill, and they feed mainly on insects and all kinds of insects, small reptiles, and also fruits and seeds from time to time. And you can see now the sun has really started to come out at Ngala, so the birds are out to play as well. And that's lovely for us this morning. It's been quite a slow morning. Tracks and signs, looking for the leopards and the lions that I mentioned earlier. I think with that rain that came over, a lot of rain on the road that's washed away most of the tracks from last night. So we're just going to keep driving around Ngala looking for anything fresh, any fresh signs, maybe a leopard or lion that's got active after the rain. During that rainstorm, BK and myself headed back to camp for a little while, and I'm sure the leopards and lions were tucked away under a bush trying to avoid the rain, and now that the sun has come out, they might be moving around again looking for a nice spot to lie up for the day. We did find another herd of elephants as well, but they moved off into the thick bush around us, and I think that might be where that elephant bull that we had earlier was heading. He sort of took a turn and headed up onto the northern bank, and we left him because he was giving us a little bit of trouble from time to time, and BK wasn't too keen to spend time with him. But yeah, really beautiful day, and you can see the clouds are pretty much all around us at the moment. The northern side a little bit bluer, and there's blue sky right above us. Sorry, BK, it's a bit hard to get that on camera. But there are clouds moving all the way around Ngala, with pretty much just the sun shining through on us where we are. So I don't know what the weather's like at Djuma. If it's cleared up there, I did hear that they are out. I'm sure the rain has stopped. But really starting to become quite a beautiful day, and I'm sure it's going to heat up quite a lot today. It might even become rather humid with this cloud cover around and the fact that there was rain. I'm sure that means that most of the animals already, they didn't have much time to move around this morning with the rain, but most of the predators will start looking for a place to rest up for the day, and the animals like impalas and wildebeest and zebra will probably be moving in towards more open areas where there's nice grass for them to feed on. I think what we're going to do is we're just going to keep driving along sort of back towards the central parts of the reserve and see what we can find. There hasn't been too much around this morning, but hopefully we get lucky and come across something while driving. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to keep heading and see what else we can find this morning. The area we're in now, there's quite a nice little drainage line just in front of us that I think we might just check up in a northerly direction. Maybe if we're very lucky, tracks of a leopard crossing, which would be ideal. We can maybe then see where the leopard's gone and try and follow it. There's a female leopard that lives in this area who has a youngster, and she is about 2 years old now, just under 2 years old. So we have been hearing the mom rasping every now and then, but I think what we're going to do is we're going to send you over to Deerwold while we continue our search this morning.
There's a Warthog that's now come out of nowhere that's just come to have another drink while all the animals have moved away. We were hoping that those rhinos were going to wallow, but I think it's two young bulls and they were trying to cover some distance. They're close to a big dung midden, so maybe trying to get away from the area close to another big dominant bull. Let's see, this looks like a female warthog here that's now just having a drink on the other side there. But let's see, it doesn't look like she's been at the watering hole or at any water recently. So after having a drink there, look how she's sitting on her knees, on her front knees there to get to the water. Let's see if she comes down towards the muddy patch here at the bottom and wallows as well. Really enjoying the water there. This watering hole has been very, very productive. You can actually see another warthog coming further back down to the water as well. You can imagine why, well, it's easy to see why these lions have been hanging around this watering hole for the last week or so. So many animals that are dependent on the small watering hole, as all the others have dried up through the winter. Hopefully it rains a lot in the coming months and we have some more watering holes popping up everywhere. And all the animals, I think, trying to come and have a drink and wallow before it gets too hot, and then it becomes a little bit too hot for them to come to the water. There's some zebras on the way to the watering hole as well. We see the small herds of wildebeest and zebras coming and having a drink, not all at once, but slowly but surely, like making their way to the water as the others leave. Maybe a different stallion with his harem of females, of mares coming to drink, trying to avoid the mares being close to other stallions. So they don't just walk to the watering hole, they stop, and it takes quite a while for them to get here, because around a watering hole like this, when they're drinking, it's obviously a resource they all need to get to, and I think they know that the predators will try and use that to get close to some prey animals. So taking it very slow and just listening and looking around to make sure that there's no danger before they come to the water. There's now a second warthog that's also come to join at the watering hole. It looks like a boar. While we wait for the zebras to come, we'll have a look at these warthogs here. And if you have a look at the faces of these warthogs, see this one that's just walking around. She's got very small warts on her side of her face, and you can see her teeth hanging down, so it looks like a pregnant female. And then if you look at the one that they're in the back, directly behind her, look at the warts on the face. Nice big warts sticking out there with big tusks. So that is a boar on that side. And I think they're both slowly coming down to the water here to have a wallow, but also taking it very slow, keeping an eye out for any predators. There she goes, straight into the water. Look at that. Pushing a snout in, trying to figure out where the nice muddy sections are. A little bit nervous. Not too keen to roll around. Just listening for a moment. That boar has moved off to some warthogs in the back there, but this female, she is happy to roll around in the mud a bit, trying to cool herself down. But for now, I think we might stick around for a little bit longer. See if we can maybe get a view of those lions again. It seems like they've moved off a bit. Maybe see what other animals come down to the water here with this nice hot summer's day that we've got.
Back at Tswalu Kalahari, we've just said that the wildebeest only like to sleep under the trees at 8:30 if it's going to be a hot day, and this, I say gemsbok or oryx, has decided that 8 o'clock he's already ready to have his midday nap. So he was standing there a couple of minutes and looking around. It's you'd think with much larger trees around, why wouldn't you choose that, and why would you choose this little tiny little bush that's providing a bit of shade? He's put himself there so that he can constantly watch for predators, but often under the large camel thorn trees there's actually it's like a type of a tick called a tampan. And as soon as the animals lie down there, then the tampans crawl up and all over them. So they often would prefer to actually just lie right next to a little, either a three-thorn or a grevia, and there's enough shade there. He's happy in the shade and he can just glance around. He's in a nice open area, so unlikely that a predator could catch him by surprise. And a gemsbok is one of those animals, because they can't afford to use too much energy in the heat of the day, that actually tend to stand their ground more than choosing to run. So a predator would get relatively close to a gemsbok before it actually made the choice to run away. It would obviously stand up if it saw a predator to be ready to run. Lying down and waiting for the predator to pounce on you would be a bit silly, but they'll stand up, face the danger, and then at a certain point make the decision, okay, I need to move, because that movement costs energy also in the heat, which they can't necessarily afford to lose. So they often will stand and wait and only move off at the last minute. I mean, I'm feeling it quite now. I mean, it was supposed to only be like 14 degrees this morning, but I think it's already at least double that at the moment. We're probably close to 28, 30 degrees by now. So he'll spend the majority of the day there in the shade, and late afternoon, when it starts getting a little bit cooler, he'll start going out grazing. So he'll be a territorial bull in this area. We did pass a herd with some females and youngsters, but they decided to go up and over the dune, so out of the visual of the camera. So they were within his area, and there are some youngsters around at the moment, which is also quite nice. Hopefully we can find you one of those. See, also just moving his ears every now and again. That'll also be those louse flies that are painful. Even with us, if we get bitten by one of those louse flies, it's incredibly painful. It leaves a nice little red welt if you don't get them off you in the meantime. So our plan is to carry on down the Dune Street and follow up. We have got an update. We're hoping to get to the area. It's still a little bit of driving time to get to the area to have an update. We're going to keep it a secret, because I don't know if we're going to get there on time. But we're definitely going to start heading south to see if we can get.
Sorry about that, guys. I'm sure we'll get Tswalu and Deirdre back in no time. There have been reports of, or at least tracks of wild dogs in the northeastern corner near Botanical Dam, so that's where we're headed at the moment. Hopefully we'll get lucky there. I think we'll keep our pulls towards the dam. It's starting to, like I said, starting to heat up, but I still think that if we do see them, they'll still might be hunting, considering that it's not too hot or the sun is not beating down. There's still some good cloud cover. And I haven't seen any tracks for them on the side, so I'm hoping that they're kind of sitting at Botanical Dam. If they're lying down there, that would be awesome. Get to see some bird life and get to see the dogs. That would be great. Maybe even an elephant comes along. Just thought I'd put it out there. And the hippos. Don't forget the hippos. I always like this road. This is Hippo Pools Road. It's to the east of Buffelshoek Dam, southeast of Buffelshoek Dam. But you get quite a nice reveal as we drive. So look in patches of shade towards Buffelshoek Dam. So we're almost there. And where the rain, the ground becomes quite hard and compacted. It's not sandy, so it's much more difficult to see tracks. We are almost at the reveal for the dam. Makes me excited, guys. Well, while we take this turn and almost at the dam, I will remind you guys that exciting stuff is happening. So why don't you go over to our website, wildearth.tv/explorers, and see what's going on, how you can get involved. Ooh, a bit muddy there. Look, there it is. Let's look carefully. So come around this corner and then the dam is right there. I think it's wonderful. There have been a number of times you just drive through like this and just see a leopard sitting on the dam wall. Let's grab this patch of shade here. Ooh, windy. Don't shout at me. Very nice. We're going to pull out the binoculars to have a look, see if we see any dogs sitting in the shade. We have a really nice yellow bull stalks on this dead tree. 2 of them. Remember when we first saw them, it was just one, and we spoke about how they're usually found in pairs, but they can be found singly. Obviously, this one has found its pair. Unfortunately, I don't see any dogs. I'm just going to drive over onto the dam wall and around and see if we pick up on anything. But I'll send you over to Deer Vault in the meantime. He's got some zebra grazing.
We are just keeping an eye on some other zebras that are seemingly on their way to the watering hole here. So to give you an idea of where the lions are sleeping in the thickets, we can't see them from where we are now, but like 100 or so meters, 150 meters or so to the left, the lions have just spotted the zebras. One of them is sitting up right now, and there is a tiny little foal with all these zebras there. So we're just keeping an eye on and see what's going to happen here. The wind is blowing. It seems like the scent of those lions straight onto the zebras. But I think the need for water, these zebras are risking it and just going and walking through this open clearing here at the bottom. So the zebras just stop every now and then to look and listen. See the foal there, second from the front, sticking very close to its mother. The lion is still sitting upright, but her ears are down. The zebras are looking straight in that direction, straight towards the lions there. I'm sure they can smell them with this breeze blowing over over the lion's shoulders straight towards the zebras. Not in their favor at all. So there's way too much open space between the lions and the zebras at the moment. They will never be able to catch the zebras at this distance. They need the zebras to come much, much closer. And you're asking how many zebra species there are. Now I have to think back of the days when I was studying all these things. But in South Africa, where we are now, on Phinda, we only have the plain zebras. And then there's some mountain zebras closer to Cape Town and in the mountainous areas. Then there is the Hartmann zebras. There is the Greaves, I think, zebras. That's also another species, but the most common species that you've got is the plains zebra. Those are also the ones that occur in East Africa that go through all the migrations and so on. Yeah, the zebras are just stopping for a moment, looking straight at the lions again. They're closing the gap a little bit, much closer than what they were earlier. The lioness is slowly moving down, trying to make herself disappear behind the small bushes there. Look at the zebras walking with their heads down. They haven't seen those lions just yet, but I think they can smell them. Looks like the lioness is poising, ready to go. Let's just see what happens here. See the foal sticking really close to its mother there. One of the zebra, the female with the foal, looking straight towards the lions. No, it just kept on walking. Wonder if that foal can also smell the lions and putting its mother between her and the lions. Let's see what this lioness does. Keep still poised to go. Still too much of an open clearing, I think, between her and the zebras. This lioness is very, very patient. Those the last zebras just stopping and looking at something there. Can't see anything. Lioness is just looking in this direction now towards the zebra still, but picking her ears up a little bit. I think she realized that that opportunity was maybe not going to be worth it. Too much of an open area for her to cover that distance and get to the zebras before they run off. Yeah, I think the jig is up and that lioness has lost interest. You can see her ears and the way that she's looking at these zebras. She's not too interested anymore. But while we have been looking at these zebras and lions, behind us there's actually a giraffe that's busy drinking and probably wondering what we are looking at. Let's see if we can come around And we'll see, there's actually a whole journey of giraffe and even some buffalo on their way to the watering hole here as well. But look at this, there's a giraffe bull drinking right here next to us. Everything's happening. Oh yeah, the lioness is on the move. She's actually trotting. I'm going to go back to the lion just to keep an eye on them. She just picked up the pace a little bit and she's right out in the open now. She's really interested in this zebra foal. The zebras are obviously now walking away from her, not looking back. Look how slowly she's walking. So she stops every now and then, waiting for the zebras to keep on going, keeping her head nice and low. If those zebras look around, they'll definitely spot her in the open there, but they haven't seen her yet. She might use this little hill that's here in front of us as cover, and there's some longer grass there as well. Oh my goodness, everything's happening. I don't know where to look. The lioness is stalking here in front of us, and there's a herd of buffalo and the giraffes drinking behind us as well. I don't know if you can hear the water. Okay, this lioness is still stalking. Hear the water as the buffalo are moving into the watering hole. One of the zebras have just looked around towards the lion there. Corny, you asking if the young zebra will be able to outrun the lion. If there's an adequate amount of distance between them, the lion won't be able to keep her pace up for that long. But if the lion can get close enough, that young zebra might be a little bit too slow. So if the lion can get close enough, then we might have a hunt on our hands here. Everything's going down here at the moment. I'm sure you can hear the water here behind us as the buffalo have come into the water. Seems like the zebras are losing interest. Let's see if the female lion keeps on moving. She was just waiting for the zebras to keep on moving. This lioness is super patient, waiting for the right moment. I'm going to keep an eye on this lioness here, and then Glenn's going to see if he can pan the camera around just for a moment to show you what's going on behind us here. So I'm going to keep on looking towards the lioness there and keep an eye on them. But look at this herd of buffalo that is absolutely enjoying the water. Once this lioness starts stalking again, then we'll come back onto her. But she's just standing still for now. Look at the tiny buffalo calf that's here in the water as well, with the red-billed oxpecker just flying off of it. Doesn't even have proper horns yet. You can just see the little horns starting to grow there. Okay. It seems like the lioness has lost interest. She's actually walking back towards where she was lying down earlier. I think she realized that the chances of her trying to catch one of these zebras is very, very low. The zebras have all spotted her as well, so she's walking back right out in the open. But I think let's stick with these buffalo and just watch them enjoy their bath midday bath here, or actually still early morning, isn't it? Look at that youngster sticking really close to its mom. There's a big bull coming here to drink. And have a look at the coloration of this bull's horns. He's been scratching himself. Look at that. Oh my goodness. That yellow coloration in his horns is him scratching himself against some fever trees earlier. But now he's really going to town to that piece of dirt there. How amazing is this? Everything's happening here at the small watering hole. Look at that, pushing his horns and stuff into the mud there. You can imagine around that, those 6 thick set horns. They've got a lot of itchy ticks and stuff sitting around there, so he's trying to scratch in there and get the mud over there as much as possible. The whole herd is basically in the water. The giraffes are patiently waiting for their turn to come have a drink. Oh, poor white-faced whistling duck in between all of the buffalo here, just trying to get out of the way. But for now, I think Glenn and I are gonna just sit here and enjoy all the mud walling that's happening here and keep an eye on these giraffes and see if they want to come down for a drink.
We are here at Wildebeest Dam and watching all the cool, interesting things that are going on. Lots of terrapins, and there's one of those really big dragonflies, those emperors, flying about. I do like those ones. Lots of gorgeous sounds as well. And I'm waiting for the bird life to come drink at the shores. Always the usual suspects around. Look at this cutie. Hello, student. Lots of little terrapin heads bobbing up and down. I love watching the dragonflies here. They're just so difficult to get on camera as they move so quickly. But every now and then I like to challenge the cameraman. What do you think, Theo? Hello, warthogs. Oh, look at that. Put the nose in the water. Half of it, half of the nose. It's so cute. Really having a good time. The piglets are just adorable at this time. Lots of things are going on at the dam. Always nice to just appreciate it for a little bit.
We are still watching these buffalo, and look at this big giraffe bull coming down to the water now. A bit more confident than the other. Look at all the buffalo looking up at the giraffe. It seems like they've all got a healthy respect for each other. It's the first time that I've seen a buffalo look up at a giraffe's face. Seeing these buffalo enjoy this water makes me so happy. Even more buffalo are coming to join these down here at the bottom. So the watering hole there at the top, it seems like there's some not as muddy water there at the top where they're all drinking. And interesting how they're not really drinking the water here at the bottom because it's been disturbed so much by all the warthogs and buffalo earlier. There's one or two of them drinking it, but a lot more drinking at the top there. You are saying what a gorgeous scene. It absolutely is. And all of these animals just showing us that water is life and is essential. And just this little watering hole that we have had here for the last hour and a half, 2 hours, just shows you all the animals need the water. There's some zebras further off to the left that's waiting for the buffalo to have their drink before they come down. There's a white-faced whistling duck that was flying between the buffalo trying to get out of the way. Look at the beautiful colorations on that white-faced whistling duck there with that red hazelnut color chest. And the white face like the name suggests. He was having such a pleasant day, having this watering hole to himself and some warthogs earlier. But look at this white-faced whistling duck's actually feeding on what looks like some insects that these buffalo are disturbing, and that's maybe flying off of these buffalo. But this day got... Oh, watch out! These buffalo chasing each other around, looking for the best possible spots to lie down in the water here. There we go. Catching some insects there. You can see the young buffaloes are standing on the edge of the water, and it's all old cows and bulls that are almost inside the water there. A bit of a hierarchy system here. You get to the best spots in the deepest part of the water to lie down. Lisa, you're asking if they won't get sick drinking this muddy water. I think if it was us with our very sensitive digestive systems, we would have probably gotten sick. But animals are way more hardy than what we are, so they'll use all the moisture they can get and really get sick of any watering holes, especially natural watering holes. There's a giraffe coming over the back there. Look at that. There's buffaloes, zebras, warthogs and giraffes all in the same shot here. These buffalo are really chasing each other around for the best spots in the mud. That giraffe standing there in the back looks like a young bull. Still got a bit of black tufts of fur on top of the horns there, but you can see how nice and thick the horns are. So much going on here. That giraffe, I think, has decided it's time to come for a drink. Can't wait any longer. I imagine they must be quite thirsty, especially with this hot day that we've got here. Just having a look now, it seems like it's about 36 degrees Celsius here at the moment, and that's all before 9 o'clock in the morning. So I think today is going to be a real scorcher later on. Here the giraffes just spotted something there in the distance, maybe some warthogs or so. Silas, I think the giraffe have a healthy respect for buffalo, because I think they know that they are quite big animals and they're quite powerful, so I think that's why they are not coming closer just yet. So I think they've got a healthy respect for them, like most of the animals do. But if there was like a rhino or an elephant, then the buffalo might move away. So yes, there is but a bit of a hierarchy between all the animals around these watering holes. But it seems like the buffalo are actually making a bit of space at the top there. That giraffe is really close to where the buffalo are drinking. And even a lot of the zebras coming down to the water now as well. I think these buffalo are slowly but surely climbing out of the water. You can see more and more of them moving off to the right hand side. But I think this is going to be their spot for this nice hot spot now. There's a big bull that's just standing in the middle of the watering hole. Yeah, he's got a bit of yellow on his horns there. Also from maybe rubbing those horns against some fever trees with the yellow dust on them, trying to get to the itchy parts around his horns. There's even some Egyptian geese that's come to join everyone here around the watering hole. And in between all these animals, I can just see red-billed oxpeckers flying in between all of them. But for now, I think we are going to stick around this watering hole here and enjoy this whole scene that's going on here. But for now, we'll send you to Tswalu with her impalas.
We're enjoying this scene. All of our impalas on quarantine have all congregated in this spot, and there's so many, it's wonderful. They've also got our wildebeest in the background with their calves. Everybody is just having a good day, especially now they're probably dried up a little bit and not soaking like they were. Let's do a baby count. Whoa. That was a very synchronized movement by all the impalas there. Wildebeest baby count. I see 1. I see 2. But everyone, well, most of them are lying down. So probably our youngsters are too. And remember, that's why they're that light color as opposed to the adult coloration. So they can blend in very well when they're lying down. This scene is the ultimate safety in numbers scene. If you all hang out together, you all can't get eaten. Just try and make sure that you're somewhere towards the middle of the herd. It also means more eyes and ears. Some are ruminating. I love how they all just stay in one direction. You can see that they're very comfortable. They might be a little bit cautious because of the wind, as usual. That's why they congregate together. But everyone is chewing away. It's always a good sign. Chewing. Ruminate and ruminate and ruminate. Oh, let's watch. I love watching the ball of cud go up and down their throats. Oh, but we don't have a clear view. This one's looking very, very pensive. Should I eat another cud ball, shouldn't I? This one's definitely chewing the cud along. You'll be able to see it swallow and then throw up another ball. I don't know why, but it always amuses me. It keeps me very entertained when I watch them ruminating. Down it goes. And up it comes. Ooh, ooh, look at that. It's like magic. They really are breaking it down. But in a different sense than what you might be used to when someone says you're breaking it down. Hi, Lucas. You have a really important question because we think of this as such basic, things that we deal with that we sometimes forget to tell you. You'd like to know, how do you know if they're male or female? The males are the only ones that have horns. Now, when they're very, very young, you wouldn't be able to tell. The lambs, it's very difficult to tell. But at a year, those horns are poking through. Let me see if I can find one that's about from last year's lot. I can't see one from last year's lot. There's one sitting down here. It's about 2. You can see that one's definitely a male. It's got horns. That one as well. They'll be about half that size when it's about a year old from last year. And that's why it's quite easy, because we know about when the rutting season and when the lambs are going to drop. It's quite easy to estimate the age based on those horns, at least until a certain point, until they're fully grown. Oh, look at that. Anyway, Tristan has managed to find those wild dogs that we are looking for at Buffelshoek Dam. They're inside of Buffelshoek where he is. So let's go over and have a look.
Well, I mean, it wasn't me that found anything. We were up in Buffelshoek actually looking for a cheetah. There was a brief visual of this male cheetah that unfortunately is quite shy. So we were busy scratching around for him, and then the dogs popped out. So it wasn't so much that we were looking for the dogs. And like I say, it wasn't actually even us that found them. We just got into the sighting, which is cool. What are you no, you guys stop it. That's naughty. Now, generally, I don't interfere, but they're eating a plastic pipe, so I'm going to just stop them from doing that quickly, because that's not good for them at all. There's pipes that run through here that feed the camps, and so we just want to stop them from chewing on pipes. Like I say, not good for their tummies at all. Come, you lot, leave the pipe alone. Leave it. Stop it. Yes, you two are naughty. No, the pipe is not for you. So unfortunately what happens is, because it's for water, ellies dig them up, and then these guys and hyenas and the likes start to come and mess around with it. So we're just going to drive over the pipe so that they do not come and mess around with it anymore. It's naughty, and like I say, it's not good for them at all. Normally we don't interfere, and obviously don't like moving them away from things, but ultimately it's for their own safety and their own health to stop them from doing these kinds of things. So sometimes you've got to distract them a bit, and once they feel like they've got friends, they'll go do something else. No, don't come back here again. There's a whole pipe that's running the whole length here, so I'm in a losing battle. This one is already sniffing around. Don't bite the pipe, leave the pipe. So basically, like I say, this runs from a drainage section where there is water and a borehole to the camp itself. Now, a lot of these are old redundant pipes, and as soon as the Ellies pull them up, we collect them and get rid of them. But what we don't want is them chewing it. All right, now it sounds like there's something exciting happening at Phinda, so let's quickly send you across to them.
Just as you got to us, this lioness was stalking a Warthog, and the Warthog noticed that she was behind her, and the lioness is back on her way to the thickets where she was lying down. Oh my goodness, my heart can't hold it anymore. But the Warthog, unfortunately, as soon as the lioness got within 40 or 30 meters from the Warthog, the Warthog knew that she was there, and I think it was the wind that blew her scent onto the Warthog that gave it away. Now she's just walking back to the thickets where she's going to go lie down, I think. Wow, oh my goodness. And as we are looking at this, you can see the two sub-adult, or it looks like there's actually two cubs there. Let's quickly have a look. Yeah, two cubs of this female coming towards her now. And then looks like there's a sub-adult male that's sitting right in the back there as well. It's not like they haven't eaten anything much recent or very recent, but they still have something in their bellies. But like I said, I think they might just go and lie down. There's a bit of interaction between the female and the cubs there for a moment. See the youngsters just rubbing up against their mother. I think they might get a little bit fed up of being in the sun and not having too much shade. Let's see if they keep on moving. Yeah, I think she's heading off to the left-hand side, maybe where there's a bit more shade for them. Try and get out of the sun and the heat. But if they play their cards right, I think these lions might get another chance to hunt. Like we said, there's a lot of animals that are coming down to the water here, as this is the only water in quite a big area. Yeah, she's heading down. Okay, while we're sitting here, we're going to come around again. There's a big elephant bull that's on his way to the water. My goodness, and look at this absolute massive bull. Look at all the buffaloes starting to look at this elephant bull. Now we'll see where in the hierarchy around this watering hole this elephant bull fits in. Look at the buffalo already making space for him. Big one-tusk bull. Going straight to the water there. Oh, look at that. Water looks pretty muddy on that side to me. See how he's sucking slowly some water there. And there he goes for a drink. There's not much water on that side. He might come down to this muddy water down here. Get to see how long he takes to fill his trunk there with a little bit. I wonder if the water has been drank by all these animals that have been here now for the last half an hour or so. Let's see, look at the water that he sprays into his mouth now. Yeah, there's not much. He's not wasting too much of it, so there was a bit that came out as he lowered his trunk. Yeah, this elephant bull is keeping on drinking. I think we're going to stick around and see if he maybe comes and throws some mud and stuff onto himself. But for now, we're gonna head towards Nick. That's got some grazing buffalo.
So welcome back to andBeyond Ngala, everyone, and look at this beautiful herd of buffalo that we have managed to find this morning. Murphy's Law, the first animal we found was the buffalo carcass, and I mentioned how little buffalo we've been seeing around Ngala. So it is really quite special to have a herd, not a massive herd, maybe about 50, 60 animals moving through, but super special to have them around. And you can see how they've scattered out all over the show, feeding in this nice clearing, lots of beautiful green grass for them to feed on. Can you see how their tails are all consistently swishing from side to side as well? So there's a lot of insects and flies that have been following this buffalo herd around, and just by swishing the tails around, they can get them to move off them every now and again. And if you have a look at some of these buffaloes' heads around their horns, you'll see, if you remember this morning, that bull had that really big helmet-like structure on his head, or what we call a boss. So can you see how these females have actually got much less of that helmet on top of their head, pretty much no helmet at all, and you can see there's quite a lot of hair in between the two horns as well. So that is the easiest way to tell the difference between male and female buffalo. I'm just going to ask BK as well to move. Oh, he's already on it. So this female is quite a magnificent specimen. She's got really, really big horns for a buffalo cow. And if you have a look, she's moving right at the front of the herd, and she's been leading this herd for the last 15-20 minutes from our left to our right. So I think she might be one of the older, more mature females in the herd, and she might be known as what we call a pathfinder, which is the female buffalo within the herd. Sometimes there are a couple of them, and they will decide on the movement of the herd. So she's been moving this morning, and then when she found this nice clearing here, good area to keep a lookout for any animals like lions that might come about, and nice grass for them to feed on. She's sort of slowed the movement of the whole herd down. You can see how they really are quite spread out here feeding. Have a look at some of them as well. Maybe this young one just to the left, not that one, the next one. See how he's lifting its head right up towards the sky and really trying to get a good scent on us. These buffalo, look, there it is again. They've got an incredibly, incredibly good sense of smell, being their number one scent to pick up on any threats or worries that might be around. So something like us, the wind is blowing directly from us towards this herd of buffalo, so they're getting a really good whiff of the scent of myself and BK this morning, and that they would use their nose as well to pick up on any predators like lions, which we know from Dan in the last couple of days. We've been seeing heaps of lions around Ngala as well. And you can see how they're just starting to move, and this herd of buffalo are probably going to spend the majority of the morning, while it's still a little bit cooler, feeding in the clearing, and then as it gets hotter this afternoon, I think it is going to get quite hot and humid as today pans out. And we're going to spend a little bit more time with this buffalo herd, see where they move off to and see what they get up to. But for now, we're going to send you over to Djuma and Tristan with his pack of wild dogs.
Right, well, while they spend time with the buffalo, as you can see, we're still with the dogs. It's the Pungwe pack for those of you that are interested, and the ones that I didn't tell earlier. There's a little puppy who calling behind us. It's still cute. It's soft and subtle. But anyway, they're chewing on the remains of something as well. It looks very, very small, maybe a little steenbok or a dyke, a young dyke or a young Impala lamb. It's not a pipe anymore, thankfully, and we managed to dissuade them from getting rid of all of that, or from going back to that stuff. So now they're onto bones and bits of whatever it is, and they're so scattered at the moment, it's really difficult to actually get a proper count on them, because there literally are dogs just everywhere. Why are you whining? The rest of your pack is here. Come. There's one of the dogs that's whining slightly. There's a whole bunch of the adults are starting to arrive back as well. So here was puppies coupled with, I think it was about 2 or 3 adults at first, but the rest of the pack is slowly arriving now. The alpha female is also here. It seems like it's a pretty complete count at this stage. It seems like all dogs are around. Listen to this dog though. It's getting harder and harder to tell the puppies apart from the adults these days. They're growing so fast. It's crazy to think they were a certain size those few months ago where they were vulnerable and tiny. Now they almost look like fully fledged wild dogs, don't they? They've got a little bit of growing to do, but their legs are lanky, the ears are big, and they've kind of grown into themselves a little bit. They don't look as comical as they once did. I'm going to reposition slightly just because the way that we are. Don't know if you can hear that puppy who calling. Cute. The who calling puppy is a very, very cute thing. Obviously the adults do it. It's a much louder, more haunting call. But the puppies, when they do it, it's much, much cuter. I'm going to try and find a way to get a view so that we can actually hear it nicely. Shame, here comes the one that's badly injured. So this one is not pretty at all. For those of you that are sensitive, do not look at the leg. The leg has got all kinds of damage to it. There's even a few bones that are sticking out, which is not great. Now, unfortunately, with wild dogs, this is very much a common thread. Dogs constantly have these limps. There's very seldom a wild dog pack where you're not going to find an individual that's limping and hurting and sore. Now, this particular injury is quite brutal, but what will eventually happen is that foot will eventually become useless, and it will either basically rot and fall off, or the bones are going to reset slightly and it's going to be almost clubfoot and kind of swollen and a little bit like what you see with the evoker. It shouldn't affect its ability to move. There's lots of dogs that have survived quite well in the Kruger with only one leg. In fact, there was even one that only had two legs and still was managing to keep up with the pack. So as much as it looks bad, they still are able to function. The problem is that a lot of people have that notion of it's an endangered species, it needs to be helped. But when you look at this, the darting of this animal could potentially cause a separation of its pack. It shouldn't, but it can happen where the pack moves off and this little one struggles to find its pack again, being very, very small. It would, and with an injury like that, it would pretty much stand no chance of survival. The other alternative that you could do is you could get this dog and you could put it into a rehabilitation program or center. But for me, that is not the greatest idea. What you're doing is you're removing it from its pack completely. You're then placing it in a very small cage because in order for that foot to heal and be operated on, either they can fix it, which means it's going to be put in a little cage where it can hardly run or turn or anything because it's not going to be able to put weight on that, or they're going to amputate, and then that dog has got to live a life of captivity until it's old enough to be re-released again, which again, for an animal that runs and moves and covers such huge distances, for me, a life of captivity is almost a worse punishment in many respects. And so the only other option then is to euthanize it and rather give it a chance in nature, as brutal as it might seem, to come right and survive and then be able to, still be a functioning member of wild dog society. What's interesting is that this dog has been like this now for over a month, and it's surviving. So as much as it's probably painful and it's tender, eventually the body will start to kind of figure a way to deal with it. So like I say, either it rots off and the foot falls off, or it's going to start to heal and you'll get granulation of the skin and the bone will just join in a very ugly way, which won't be so nice. So we'll just have to wait and see. There's not really much that can be done about it at this stage, as difficult as that may sound to a lot of people.
Join us around the fire as we have our very first WildEarth Explorers Fireside Chat.
And what that means is that if you are an explorer, we're inviting you to come and join us so we can chat about the greatest highlights of 2020.
We will be chatting about our favorite characters and and what they have been up to during the course of this year.
And if you would like to join us, head over to our Explorers page and subscribe. Don't miss out. This fireside chat will be on the 13th of December at 7:30 p.m. Central African Time, straight after Sunset Safari.
An ever-increasing part of the global population is losing its connection with nature. WildEarth is here to reduce people's stress and anxiety, allowing you to escape into nature even just for a few hours a day. However, WildEarth is expensive to run, and we need help from you to keep this ship going. WildEarth Explorers gives you the opportunity to be part of a program that supports the sharing of nature with the world.
My name is James Henry, and I work here at Djuma Private Game Reserve in the Sabi sands on the western fringes of the Greater Kruger National Park. My favorite part of getting questions from viewers is that we get to have long and varied discussions about all sorts of different aspects of nature. Because our audience comes from all over the world, it's very special to have different perspectives from everywhere. If you want to submit a question on WildEarth, you need to register on our website. Once registered, go to the Live Safari page and submit your question beneath the live feed.
This is Rusty. He's my favorite vehicle, and we've been through all the good times here in the bush. Now, if you feel a connection to Djuma Game Reserve like I do, then we have a fantastic opportunity for you. You can have your name engraved on a brushed metal plaque just like this one, and we will attach it to Rusty so you can always be with us on safari in spirit. We will even send you a digital photograph once your plaque is mounted on Rusty. Spaces are limited, so grab your spot now.
You can see this elephant bull is now quite wet all over his body. He actually decided to splash himself with all the water there, but he's having a few gulps of water still. Being very careful and drinking very, very slowly, I think, trying to get to the freshest part of the water where it's not disturbed by mud. So Warthog here close to us, that's also mud wallowing a little bit, and you can see the Ellie is now keeping on drinking. Just the Warthog has just like one line of dry skin on his back there. See if he can get to it. There we go, a little bit. Oh, the elephant's on the move. Let's see if he comes down to this muddy water patch here. Look at him walking downhill and chasing all the buffalo. Look at that. Grabbing mud from the bottom there, muddy water, and throwing it onto his back and spraying it into all the crevices between his legs. Incredible how, with pinpoint accuracy, he can throw that mud to exactly where he wants, getting the dry parts on his back now. Exactly what we were hoping would happen is happening right now. Look how he's digging with his trunk at the bottom there, trying to get some nice muddy pieces to throw onto him. I take it back. There is something that looks happier than a warthog in mud and water, and it is an elephant. Trying to get to the dry parts on his back rump there. So he's digging around with his trunk, trying to get to the muddy patches at the bottom there. spraying it into his ears and onto his ears. Listen to that. Spraying it underneath his body as well. The sound is incredible. Just resting his trunk on the muddy patch there at the bottom as well. Onto the back again. All the buffalo just watching in jealousy at this elephant bull splashing himself with mud and water. Oh, that is now completely covered in mud. There's a few muddy patches on his back leg there, or dry patches, sorry. But he's literally covered every single spot on his body now. We are gonna see if we can just move a little bit. Looks like this elephant bull wants to come this way. But I think what we'll do is we'll see you again this afternoon on another live safari.
This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
My goodness, welcome everyone to a very cute start